Okay, and we are live. We'll get started in just a second. Those of you joining us live, just a moment. All right. So you got the card?
Yes, I got a card today.
Very good. Remind me after class to get you the test registration instructions.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I have all my test scores today.
Okay, I'll grab those in just a moment. Good morning. Come on in. Just gonna turn this just a little bit. There we go. How was your weekend? Was everybody good? All right, so over the weekend you had 2 chapters of homework. You had chapters 5 and 6. 5 was on dementia, 6 was on skills. Does anyone have any questions about your reading? No? Let me go ahead and get your scores. Isabella? Kiana? Julia? Thank you. Julia, do you have chapter 4 for me?
Yeah.
Thank you. Jay?
95 and 90.
Thank you. Erica? Sophia? Victoria?
90 for both.
Thank you. Christine?
I owe you chapter 2,
Yes.
97. Chapter 3, 98.
Tell me how many you missed, because it should be 90, 95.
On chapter
How many did you miss on chapter 2?
3. Is that
Okay.
97?
No, it's 85, because there were 5 points apiece.
Oh,
That's fine. What about chapter 3? How many did you miss?
minus 2.
Okay, that's a 90. Okay. Chapter 3 or 4?
Minus 1.
Okay, it's a 95. Chapter 5?
Minus 3.
Okay, 85 and 6.
100. Minus
Very
0.
good. Very good. Cleanta?
95, 100.
Thank you. Autumn?
90 and 100.
Thank you. Chloe?
90.
Thank you. Adriana? Thomas? Lisette? Janae? Jamar?
295.
Thank you. Do you have chapter 4 for me?
Me?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I got like 85.
Okay. And Salif? No? Okay. All right. Oh, Janae, very good. Janae got 195. Thank you. I've got that down for you now. And let's see here. Got a comment. Good morning. I did my state test on 6/22. I passed. Thank you so much for all the help and information you have given us. Congratulations to you. And that's Lorraine. And Tamika is taking her exam next Monday in New York. Nervous, but Miss Patty videos are a big help. Thank you, Miss Patty. Oh, good vibes out to you. You're going to do great. Going to do great. Let us know how you do.
And she transferred it from Florida?
No, she's actually testing in New York with Prometric. She went through a state-approved program, but she's using us as additional study to get ready for the test. So we have people that join from all over the United States, but also internationally. So a lot of times we'll have people on from Jamaica or the UAE. So it's very common to see people catch this live internationally. So we have a wide reach. It's pretty cool.
So CNA, you can do it anywhere in the world, pretty much.
So think about the name for a second, right? Certified Nursing Assistant. So who do we help? Nurses. So what countries have nurses? All of them. So CNA really is a national career path. Okay. It doesn't mean that you can transfer from the US to Jamaica because all the standards are a little bit different. But CNAs are found all over the world. Yes. Yes. All right. So any specific questions, the ones that you missed on the homework, do you need me to help you understand why you missed that question? Do you need me to explain it to you?
Yeah, mine was a little bit dumb, but it was when I was performing oral care with an unconscious patient. At the oral care was already performed on an unconscious patient.
Okay, that's a question that gets missed quite a bit.
Yeah,
So-
Yeah, I messed up.
Yeah, when performing oral care on an unconscious patient, which of the following is correct? Something like that, right?
Yeah, I messed up.
It's like a trick question almost.
Okay. So let me kind of explain this. Am I in the way? Okay. So let me kind of explain this a little bit. So when you are unconscious, okay, completely out, unconscious, what can you do for yourself?
Nothing.
Nothing, right? Can't do anything for yourself because you're not conscious. You have to be conscious to do things for yourself, right? So if we are unconscious, are we going to be able to toilet ourselves? Are we going to be able to turn ourselves? No. And one of the other things that we're not going to be able to do is take care of our mouth. Now, when we're unconscious, we're probably going to be breathing through our mouth. It's pretty common. So what do you think that's going to do to all of those membranes inside the mouth? Anybody have a really bad cold and you have to breathe through your mouth? What does it do to your mouth?
Dry it out.
Dries it out. That's right. So if we have all these dry membranes, then they could easily crack and split. Like, have you ever had like a cold sore where your lips splits or chapped lips so bad they split? That can actually happen on the inside of your mouth as well. So keeping those membranes moist is actually a pretty important job for CNAs when our patient is unconscious. So this would just be one of those two vets that we're going to talk about today, an oral swab, just a soft, spongy swab. I know your book talked a little bit about it. And you just wet it with just a little bit of water and just wipe around the inside of the mouth just to moisten those membranes. We don't want to put toothpaste in there because the patient can't spit, but a little bit of moisture is a good thing. We also have these things called lemon glycerin swabs. So it's a little bit stickier than just water. So it kind of coats the mucous membranes and it keeps the moisture in there a little bit longer. So, and it has this lemon taste. It sounds much better than it actually is. They try, but you know, it's not as good as you would think. But you will be assigned, if your patient is unconscious, to perform mouth care usually every 2 hours around the clock. Well, remember, if our patient is unconscious or immobile, we're going to be turning them every 2 hours around the clock. And because they can't get up and toilet, that's going to make them incontinent, and we're going to have to do that every 2 hours around the clock. So while we're in there turning them and taking care of their toileting needs, cleaning them up, we're also going to be doing mouth care as well. Make sense? So this is why when we have a total care patient, you're going to be spending about 30 minutes in that room every 2 hours. So you can't take care of a whole lot of total care patients, right? Because 30 minutes every 2 hours, that means 4 patients is all you can handle.
Do they overwhelm you at certain states or counties?
So it's not based on the county, it's not based on the state, it's not based on anything but the employer. Okay. So the problem with that term overwhelmed is that
So
it's
they
highly
give you
subjective.
Too many clients that you
Right, but
physically
that's
can't
highly
handle.
subjective. So you may have a lot of experience under you, and you may be able to handle 12 patients just fine. She's brand new. She, having the same assignment, same 12 patients, might struggle a little bit. So that overwhelmed is very subjective. It's going to be based on your personality. It's going to be based on the care that each patient needs, your skill level, and how much your nurse is willing to pitch in. Right? All of those things are going to affect it. So I don't like to say, that you're going to be overwhelmed because you may not be. Does that make sense? It really depends on you. But it's also going to depend on your setting in a lot of cases as well. So let me explain this. The workplace personality quiz that we have, I don't have the slide up, but we have a workplace personality quiz that's designed to help you with this. Okay, you have to think beyond, where do I want to work? I just saw a post in a Facebook group this morning that was, what's the best place to work, hospitals or rehabs? And that's a difficult question to answer because a lot of it depends on you. How many guys have ever worked? Okay. Think about the last job that you had. Were you happy in that job? Did you like that job? Probably not because you're here.
Actually, I don't like it right now.
Okay. So, yeah, you're searching for something different or new. So chances are you got your problems with wherever it is that you worked, right? Now, if you think about the problems that you're having, sometimes it's work related, right? They asked me to do too much with too little, that type of thing. But usually the reason that you don't like a job isn't because of that. It's because of your coworkers, scheduling, administrative differences, right? You don't get along with your supervisor, or they don't give you enough hours, or they take advantage of you or something like that, right? So it really doesn't have as much to do with the job as it does with the people. Make sense? Right? So when we start talking about where's the best place to work, remember that the job is only part of it. It's the people you're going to be doing that job with that are going to impact your perception of whether you like it or not. Does that make sense? So a lot of people are like, well, should I work in a hospital? Should I work in a rehab, a nursing home? Where should I work? Well, you kind of have to look at your own personality for a second. Me, I am a high energy problem solver. I do not do well when I do the same thing every day. I get very bored. I feel like I'm not being challenged, and I usually end up giving up because I'm just not working to my full potential. And I'd rather not do that. I'm not a repetitive type of person. So for me, working in ICU was awesome because I never knew what was coming in the door. It was always, high energy, dealing with a lot of crises that needed problem solving. So I did well in high energy environments. I did not do well in environments where I did the same exact thing every day. So you kind of have to look at your own personality, right? I also like change a lot. I get easily bored. However, one of my sons is highly adverse to change. He doesn't like change at all. He does not adapt to change at all. He is the type of person that wants to go in and do the same job every day. He wants consistency because it's easy for him to acclimate to that. When you throw things in his path, when you change something up, it takes him a while to acclimate to it, right? When I used to change my hair color and come home, he would cry. Okay. So you have to think about your personality here. If you are the type of person that does not like change, the hospital is the absolute worst place for you to be because those patients change hourly. We have admissions, we have discharges. This one's going down for an unscheduled test. This one is having severe problems all of a sudden, right? They're in a hospital. They're in an environment where everything is changing rapidly. So if you are the type of person that likes consistency, and you go to work at a hospital, are you going to think that that's a good job? No. Is it really a bad job? No, it's bad for you because you didn't know what you wanted out of the job, right? It's not fair to judge the job when you don't even know what you're judging the job on. Does that make sense? Right? So if you're the type of person that likes to get to know your patients, you like having conversations, you like, kind of forming those connections. Well, long-term care is going to be the place for you. The patients go in and they stay there. So you get to form those connections, right? Now, if you're the type of person you're like, less people, better, okay, don't really like people, the shorter, the better, then maybe a walk-in clinic might be the right place for you. Patients are only there 15 minutes. Are you the type of person that likes doing a lot of personal care? This bathing stuff is good, right up your alley. You know, you're awesome with that. Bathing, dressing, grooming, toileting, that's your jam. Then long-term care or even rehab might be a good setting for you. But mental health is not. Now, if you're the type of person, you're like, no, I'm not really a bathing type of person. That's not really what I like to do. I like doing more of the conversation part. Well, then mental health might be the right setting for you. Or maybe even pediatrics. So what I did is I put all of these criteria. I made 19 questions. And it's going to go over things like what kind of personality do you have? You know, gives you a couple choices. It's going to ask how comfortable you are with change. It's going to ask whether you like more clinical or less clinical environments. If you are the type of person who walks in and there's all kinds of beeping and machines and you are immediately scared to death because you don't want to do anything wrong, the hospital is not your place, guys. Right? So we have to look at all of this. What kind of shift do you want to work? What kind of benefits do you want? What kind of opportunity for advancement are you looking for? All of those things are going to play into your ideal workplace. Now, if you ask 100 different healthcare workers, where should I work? You're going to get 100 different answers because it's all based on them, not you. Right? Does that make sense? So we have to think about that when we're trying to decide where we want to work. So the workplace personality quiz will help you figure that out. And if you get into a place and it's not the right place for you, remember that you got to stop and think, is it really the job, what I'm physically doing, or is it the people that I'm doing it with that I object to? If it's the job, then leave healthcare. If it's the people, find a different place to do healthcare. Find different people. Go to a different shift. Go to a different unit. Go to a different place. But find a different place. Most of the time, I would wager that it's not the job. It's the people you're doing the job with that you're having a problem with. Does that make sense? But this also can be flipped around on the other side. And let me explain what I mean. This is why I spend so much time on patient-centered healthcare, okay? Because your patients have the same reaction. And let me explain. Without saying any names, Okay, don't shout out any names. Do any of you have a hospital or a doctor's office that you absolutely will not go to? Think about it. Don't shout out any names. We usually have our preferences, right? Well, we form our preferences based on bad experiences. So let's talk about that for just a second. Let's say that you don't like hospital ABC down the road, whatever that hospital is. And you tell everybody, don't go to that hospital. They're horrible. They're just, don't go there. I wouldn't take my dog there. Don't go there. And you'll tell everybody that. But if you think back to what actually happened, why you developed that opinion, let's walk through this for a second. Do you think it was the parking lot? No. Do you think it was the landscaping around the building that you didn't like? Do you think it was the color of the walls? No. It was the way you were treated. That's what forms your opinion. Does that make sense? It's the way people treat you. Good? Well, let's break that down just a little bit further. It wasn't the way everybody there treated you. You formed that opinion based on the actions of one or two individuals that may not even still work there. And yet you have written off that entire facility. All 500 people that work there, the whole building, the parking lot, everything. You wrote it all off based on the actions of one or two people. Does that make sense? You, as a healthcare worker, will be influencing patients' opinions of that entire facility. Not just you. And if they don't like you, they will tell everybody not to go to the facility. Now, if the facility gets a bad enough reputation, that means less people are coming. Good morning. Less people are coming, which means less revenue. What do you think that's going to mean for paychecks? Less money coming in. What does that do to your paychecks? Yeah. If the facility doesn't have the money coming in, how are they going to pay you? So are you seeing how the way that you interact with your patients can have a much bigger effect than just you and the patient? Because people are vocal. If they don't like you, they will tell everybody not to go there. Does that make sense? And sometimes you have unreasonable people, sure. Absolutely. You know, there are unreasonable people out there. There are unreasonable patients that no matter what you do, you just can't get along. That does happen. Absolutely. I had one this weekend. We had to close the store on Saturday unexpectedly. We had a family emergency, put a note on the door. I got a 1-star review on Google of the store because they came and the store was closed.
Wow.
You know, I'm a small business. In 18 years, I've closed once. And I get a 1-star review. So yeah, you are going to have, if you guys want to give me reviews for the store, if you had a good experience, please jump in. But, you know, that's the thing though. If somebody has a bad experience, there are a lot of ways that they can spread that dissatisfaction around. Right? So we've got to be careful not to let our bad days affect our patients, because ultimately that can come back and bite us. Does that make sense? So when it comes to your question, do they overload you? It depends on the setting. It depends on your skill level. And it also depends on your coworkers. because there's some coworkers that work great as a team and can take care of those patients together, and life is great. And then there are some that don't get along real well. So a lot of that depends. There's a lot of variables there. Does that make sense? So I can't give you a yes or no answer there. I just can't. But I will tell you that we are 1 million CNA short nationwide. It's a big number. We're 1 million CNA short nationwide. Now, training is, you can get training done in a month. So here's the problem, okay? You're going to go out there and it's going to be short-staffed. You're not going to have as much help as you need to make life work well, right? And you're probably going to feel a little overwhelmed. But if you go home and you tell everybody you know, oh my gosh, don't become a CNA. It's the worst job in the world. You know, I'm overworked. Nobody helps. If you go home and you badmouth CNA to everybody you know, do you think anybody's going to be drawn to this field? No, which means that the CNA shortage is just going to continuously get, worse. Now, if you understand that your job is not optimal right now because you're short-staffed, and you look around and you find people in your orbit that you think would be good caregivers, people that are compassionate and ethical and have a good work ethic. If you find those people and you say, hey, I'm a CNA and I love what I do, but man, we're short-staffed and I would love it a whole lot more if we could get more people. Would you consider this as a career? See how that changes the dynamic? We have over 1 million CNAs. If every CNA in the country would just pick one person and bring them in, within 2 months, we could be completely over the CNA shortage. But why would anybody want to come into this industry when everybody in the industry is tearing it down? It doesn't make it attractive, does it? So be careful about how you represent your industry to others, because you are influencing whether they consider it as a potential career path or not. Good? So some things to think about. Because even the worst workplace could get better with better staff.
That is true.
Okay. Make sense? All right.
Should make a quote out of that.
Yeah, I can make a whole class out of that. Absolutely. That's one of my soapbox issues. Yeah. It's also why I spend a lot of time in this class talking about what I call the niceties of healthcare. Making sure that we're doing the openings so that the patient understands what we're doing and we get consent from them. Making sure that we thank them and treat them like we want to be there. We should be paying attention to the patient, not the skill. All of those things are going to work together to bring you and your patient closer, which will reduce the amount of friction there, give them a much more positive impression of the healthcare they received, ensure your job security, and it just makes you feel better about the job you're doing, so that will reflect in how you talk to others. Does that make sense? It's why I teach the way I do. Because I really want, if I'm the patient, I want to feel like you care about me as much as you're caring for me. And so do you when you're the patient. Good? Questions? Okay. Class is half over, guys. This is it. There's only 3 classes left after today. 3 classes left. We're almost there. If you have not registered for the test yet, now is a good time. Get that background check done. Did you guys get my email about the background check vendor that wanted to come in? So I didn't get any responses, so I'm not going to have her come in on Wednesday.
And I understand, I mean, she's driving from a long place, and her fees are pretty high. So Deontis, you can do it for 76 and change. So make sure you're getting your background check done and then registering for the state exam.
Background check have to be returned back to you by mail before you sign
The
up?
background check is never going to come to you. You don't get your background check.
Okay.
You just go to the appointment, and then they electronically send that background where it needs to go. And that's because everybody has access to some sort of photo editing software on your phone. Right? If you get your background check, you can very easily erase everything on it and send it off. So you can't have any control or any input into that process.
So once we go to that appointment, then we can register for the test.
Correct.
Okay.
I suggest you wait 24 hours between the background check and registering, just so that they can make sure that, the background check is in the right place, that there's no errors. Because sometimes, when they take your fingerprints, right, they roll, sometimes the fingerprints aren't captured very well, and they've got to call you back in for an additional scan. So that's why I say give it about 24 hours. They'll notice if there's, in that time frame, if there's any issues. Well, you can, it's the UPS on Barclay that does the level 2 background screenings. But if you just walk in to have it done, they charge you $20 or $25 more. If you register for the appointment online, it's much more cost effective. Okay. So I would strongly say, if you want to save money, I would strongly suggest registering online. And they do same day appointments. So it's not like, but if they have to sit there and type all of your information in, they're going to charge you for it. Okay. Good. Game show coming up, not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow. I have the game show. Now, you guys are close to the end. So this is going to be right before graduation for you. Okay, the day before graduation for you. If you haven't attended the game show, this would be a really good one for you to attend, because it will help you understand the types of questions that you might see on the written exam. I do 15 questions with answers and rationales, and you compete for prizes, which is pretty cool. All right, so we're going to go through our review again. This is, I believe, our last full review. So I don't think I have reviews on a review set up for Wednesday. I'll look to see. I'm not 100% sure, but we're going to go through this very quickly. We should be able to get through it quickly. Right? How do we know what to do with each patient? Care plan. Let's see here. Oh, here's a question, guys. Hold on. What's some things that differ from nursing homes to rehabs to hospitals? So I want to talk about that really quickly. And I just put in the chat, I put the ebook for the written exam. Somebody was asking, Kenesha was asking about the written exam. Okay, so we're going to come back to this in just a second. Let me answer this question. What's the difference between hospitals, rehabs, nursing homes, assisted living facilities, and so on? When you take that workplace personality quiz, okay, when you take that, you're going to get a report. Once you answer all the questions, it's going to say, hey, a rehab might be the right place for you. And this is why. And it goes through the type of work environment, the pay, the opportunity for advancement, the types of skills that you would need in that setting. All of that is going to be covered in the report that you get. At the bottom of that, it's going to give you options to read all the other ones too. So if you take the workplace personality quiz, you have access to your printout, but also all the other 8, because there's 9 possible comparisons as well. So take that workplace personality quiz and it'll help answer all of those questions. And do I have that? I do have that here. So I'll type that into the chat too. So that's the workplace personality quiz. All right. So how do we know what to do with each patient? We follow the care plan, the whole care plan, and while we're doing the skills on the care plan, what else should we be doing? Right, observing for any abnormalities, changes, pain, anything that we notice. And who do we report those to? The nurse. So I want to stop here for just a second, time out. As a CNA, half of our job is observing. We're there to do and observe. Half of our job is observation. And the problem is that everybody prepares for the doing part. You will practice giving bed baths. You'll practice range of motion. You'll practice blood pressure. You'll practice everything, but don't forget that half of your job is observation. And when you get out there in the real world and you start working, this is where CNAs tend to break down. They don't report things to the nurse. That's half of your job, guys. Don't get so stuck on the doing that you forget that the reason that you're there doing is to make those observations, and they need to be reported. So if you remember that, half of our job is observation and reporting, and that's what separates you from the home health aides and other modalities. CNAs are trained to observe and report. Make sense? That's why you're here. That is the one thing that sets you apart. You are trained to observe and report. So during the state exam, on the written test, about half of your questions are going to be being able to recognize normal and abnormal. Does that make sense? Okay. It's those observation skills that they want to see that you have a good handle on. Good. Every skill starts with the opening. What does every opening start with? Knock. Who are we greeting? How are we addressing them? By name. What do they need to know about us? Name and title. What do we need to explain to them? Okay. And what do we need to get from them? Permission. And we're going to do all of that before we close the, and is that curtain clean? So we would need to go wash our, and then we can get our supplies. We cannot touch the patient until our hands are clean. Very good. You see how easy these are now? Guys, you're only 2 weeks in. Remember day one? It seems like a long time ago, doesn't it? Yeah, it was only 2 weeks ago. Day one. And I told you you're going to learn everything on that back wall. And I saw the anxiety rise. And you guys are now repeating all this back to me without any effort. I need it this way because when you're out there working, I don't want you thinking. I want you doing the skills the way you were trained to. And this tells me that you know how to do that. All right. So every skill, we're going to evaluate if we need gloves. So when do we need gloves? What 3 criteria determines if we need gloves?
Personal skin, non-intact, and intact skin.
Okay. Body fluids,
Oh, yeah, that one.
personal skin, and non-intact skin. Very good. Good job. Very good job. What's the first thing your gloves should touch if we're going to wear them? The patient. Why is that important? Pathogens. Yeah, everything you touch with those gloves will contaminate the gloves. And then you're going to put those gloves near your patient's holes. So once we've got gloves on and we're doing our skill, we've got to be careful about what else we're touching in the environment. Pay attention to what your dirty gloves are touching. Don't hand the patient their call light with those dirty gloves. Don't open the curtain with those dirty gloves. Don't pull the sheet up next to their face with those dirty gloves, right? So be careful. What are your dirty gloves touching? And then when we go to remove those gloves, there's a special process we have to use. Can anybody tell me what that is? Okay, so pinch up first, pull that one off, and then go under and pull that one off. Okay, and then throw them away. All right, so sometimes we need supplies, and if we're going to use supplies, that means we have to have a clean place to put them. What are we going to use to create a clean place for our clean supplies? A barrier. Remember, anything can be a barrier, but for the test, we're going to use a barrier that looks like this. The absorbent side should face up. What kind of hands do we need to touch our supplies? What can't the supplies touch? And when do we want to get the barrier? Before or after we get the rest of the supplies? Before. Good job. Sometimes we're going to do skills that require uncovering the patient. In that case, we're going to need a, how do we know when we should use a privacy blanket? Anytime the patient is uncovered or undressed, exposed. Very good. If we're going to put the blanket on, do we take the sheet all the way off the bed first and then put the blanket on? How do we do this? Okay, blanket on over the sheet, pull the sheet down underneath, and that keeps our patient covered. What should we not do with the blanket when we're putting it on? Snap it or shake it. And if I need to use a privacy blanket and gloves at the end of the skill, when do I take that privacy blanket off? Before or after I remove my soiled gloves? After. You have to remove those soiled gloves because you don't want to touch that sheet that's going to go right up next to their face with soiled gloves. Good? All right, linen rolls. So when it comes to linens, what can't they touch? Uniform. Yep. What kind of hands do we need to get our linens? Clean. What can we not do with linens? Shake them or snap them. That's right. And we don't want them to touch our uniform. Linens also can't touch the floor. Doesn't matter whether they're clean or dirty. Don't let anything touch the floor. And if we don't use linens, if we take a whole bunch of linens, but we don't use them, what do we do with them? Discard them. Can we save them for later? Okay. All right. Scoot and roll. You will not have side rails in all settings. Why? Safety. They are considered a restraint. That is correct. So what do we need to use side rails, by the way? Can we decide to use side rails? Who has to make that decision? The doctor. Yep, the doctor. Absolutely. So we don't really need side rails, though, as long as the patient is where? In the middle of the bed. Does it matter if they're on their back or their side? Where do they need to be? In the middle. So if we're going to turn a patient onto their side, after the turn, they need to be in the... So how do we make that happen? Say it loud. Scoot toward you and then roll away. That's right. So that after the roll, they remain in the middle of the bed. Where should you be? Should you be turning a patient away from you or toward you? Away from you. That's right, because we have to remain behind the patient's behind. And remember, at all times, the patient needs to be in the middle of the bed. They're looking for that. So if we're doing a skill, let's say we're changing an occupied bed. We went over that skill. When you turn the patient on their side, if they're too close to the edge of the bed, the evaluator's not going to say anything, but they are going to count it against you. Okay. Now, if they're really close to the edge of the bed and it's a safety concern, the evaluator will stop the test. I will. We're actually in a little bit. Yes. Yes. Let's get through this first. All right. Washing rules. What can we not add to the basin? What do we need to turn the faucet on? Paper towel. What temperature should the water be? Who else has to check it? Okay. Whatever we wash, whatever we rinse, and we want to try not to get our surface wet. So wring out those washcloths, no drippy, wet washcloths. If we're going to put lotion on, what are we going to do before we put the lotion on? What do we do after we put lotion on? Wipe off the excess. Look at how good you guys are. Basin cleaning. Basins are all cleaned the same way. For the test, we're not going to disinfect anything. We're simply going to rinse it, dry it, and store it. But once you rinse it, we're going to set it down, because at that point, if we're going to disinfect it, that's when we would. And then we'll use a paper towel to pick it up, because you can't touch that disinfected basin or that clean basin with your soiled gloves or soiled hands. So paper towel to pick it up, paper towel to dry the inside, paper towel to dry the outside, and one more paper towel to open the drawer, because you don't want to touch that drawer with soiled hands. Okay. And then we have the closing. The closing is done at the end of every skill. The first couple of steps, the order doesn't matter. We don't really care. They all start with C. What's one of the C steps that we have to do at the closing? Say it loud. Comfortable. They need to hear that word. What else? Clean environment. Yeah, covered. Very good. Very good. So clean is going to be clean and safe. So the bed needs to be in the low position. Let's see here. What do we want to open? The curtain. And how are they going to get in touch with us if they need us? Call light. So comfort, curtain, call light, clean, and covered. Doesn't matter how we do that. Comfort, curtain, call light, clean, and covered. Doesn't matter how we do it. But once we've done all of that, then we're going to go clean our hands. Because remember, we want to get rid of those cooties. Another C. Get rid of those cooties. Once you've cleaned your hands, then you can chart if necessary. But we have to end our skill with what kind of hands? Clean hands. So if we chart, what do we have to do after? Wash our hands again. If you forget to do a step and you've washed your hands, let's say we forgot to give our patient the call light, and we went over and washed our hands and we realized we forgot to give them the call light. If we come back over to the patient, what do we need to do? Wash them again, because our standard is end skill with. So that's the last thing we do. Good? Okay, you guys got it all down. Look at you go. All right, so pulse. I'm going to go through this really quickly. The pulse, we always support the arm. Pulse is always recorded over 1 minute, but how long we count will depend on the care plan, right? Normal is 60 to 100. We're going to use the flat area of our fingers, not our fingertips. We're not going to use what finger can we not use? Thumb. Okay. Radial pulse is located at the top of the thumb side of the wrist. So way up here. We're going to say start and stop, so the evaluators know when we start and stop. And in Florida, we're going to count with 2 evaluators. This skill requires documentation. Anything we count, we have to write. Dressing a resident. We remember this using USA first. Undress strong arm first, and then we'll dress the weak arm first. We're going to ask the patient about clothing preference. They get to choose their own clothing, and we want to do that before we undress them. So we're going to get their clothing before we undress them. Of course, we are going to use a privacy blanket for this. We'll lift from below with a flat palm, always supporting at the joints. We're not going to overextend or force movement. We'll adjust clothing for neatness and appearance. We're going to dispose of all soiled items in the hamper before we end the skill. This step actually gets missed a lot on the state exam. And it's really rather surprising to me, but people, when they're taking the test, they'll do the skill part, but for some reason, there's a portion of people that don't clean anything up. They just leave everything on the table. So for this, you would have the privacy blanket and the soiled gown on the barrier on the table, and then they would say they're done. Your skill isn't over until your environment is clean. Remember that. For this skill, you also want to make sure that the call light is in the stronger hand. Actually put it in their stronger hand. Most skills require that the call light is either in or near their hand. So near is fine as long as they can reach it. But this skill is different. It says in the stronger hand. So you have to actually I just put the call light in their hand for everything. Just easier. Hand and nail care. We're going to support the wrist and the arm at all times. We're going to put the hand in the basin to soak, take it out and put it on a towel to wash, put it in to rinse, take it out and put it on a towel to dry. We'll clean underneath each nail with which side of the orange stick? The slanted end, yes. And then we're going to wipe that orange stick off on the towel between each nail. How do we file the nails? Toward the middle, one direction. And then when we go to apply lotion, what do we do first? What do we do after? Wipe it off. Okay. Apply your lotion last. Making an occupied bed, we just change the bottom sheet a half at a time. Patient needs to be where in the bed? Middle of the bed at all times. Clean rolls toward me, dirty rolls away. We learned that. Clean rolls toward me, dirty rolls away. And that just helps keep the soiled part of the sheet from contacting the new sheet because the way you're rolling it. We have to remain behind the patient's behind at all times. What shouldn't be underneath the patient? What do we need to remove? Dirty, but when we put a clean sheet on, what do we want to smooth out? Wrinkles. Very good. We're going to make hospital corners here. We'll loosen the sheet over the toes. By the way, hospital corners are graded on the state exam, but they're not graded on how pretty they are. They just want the corners of the sheet not touching the floor. So it doesn't have to be as pretty as I make it. Okay. I've been in hospital corners since I was 2. Probably close to 3. But growing up, my grandmother was a stickler. And when you got out of bed in the morning, you made your bed before you ever came out for breakfast. Before you washed your face, before you did anything, when you get out of bed, you make your bed. And she trained me to make hospital corners. She was a stickler. So I've been making hospital corners my whole life, which is a challenge for me because my husband doesn't like his sheet tucked in. So when I'm making hospital corners, I'm going to make them look really nice just because that's what I've done my whole life. If you don't have that experience, it's okay. They're not judging you against me. They're judging you against other yous. Keep that in mind. And this is one of the reasons why you probably don't feel ready to take the test yet, because I make this stuff look easy. I've got it down. I can do this literally in my sleep. I've got a lot of experience. You're not going to feel that way. Yours is going to be all choppy and sloppy, and you're going to be correcting yourselves and making mistakes, and that's okay. It doesn't have to look like me. Don't judge yourself against me. I'm an example of what you should aspire to, but don't judge yourself against me. Remember, you're competing against other yous. Okay, good. All right, loosen sheet over the toes and replace the pillowcase with the opening facing away from the door. Side lying position. This is when we turn our patient over onto the side, and The way we position their arms and legs is what's going to help us turn them. So furthest arm goes up, closest arm crosses the chest, closest knee is bent with the foot flat on the bed, and the furthest knee is angled out. And then you simply roll them onto their side. Super easy. If you do the prep work, the rolling becomes easy. But after the roll, where should they be in the bed? So before you roll them, what do you need to do? Scoot them towards you. Very good. Oops. Sorry. I hit that. Where are you? There we go. Okay. We're going to put a pillow behind their back in a roll. We'll put a pillow between their legs so that their knees and ankles don't touch. A pillow under the upper arm, and then we'll adjust the pillow under the head. Call light needs to be in the lower hand. Foot care, just like hand and nail care, a little bit lower. We're going to soak the foot in water, take it out and put it on a towel to wash, put it back into rinse, take it out to dry. But we're not doing anything with toenails. We're not cleaning under them. We're not filing them. We're not doing anything with toenails except looking at them. Remember that this skill is all about observation, right? We will apply lotion, but not where? Where should we not put lotion? Between the toes. And then at the end of the skill, we're going to put their sock and shoe back on. And again, no wrinkles. Make sure the toe seam is across the toes. All right. Mouth care. You guys know how to do this. Don't overthink it. You're just brushing teeth, people. But what position does the patient need to be in for you to brush your teeth? Yeah, upright. Absolutely. So you got to put the head of the bed up for this skill. Because they are going to be spitting in a sitting position, we want to protect their clothing with a barrier, towel, something. Washcloth. I don't care what you use. You should use something. When we're brushing, how much toothpaste should we use? A little bit. And what should we do with toothbrush before we put toothpaste on? Wet it. We're going to brush the top, the bottom, the front, the back, and the tongue. No time requirement here. You don't have to brush for 2 whole minutes. Just get it all done. And then we'll let them rinse. How often should they rinse? How many rinses should they do? Oh, whatever they need. Absolutely. Whatever they need. And then at the end of this skill, make sure that you're drying that face off. That's the step that is most commonly missed on this skill. Don't leave your patient sitting in bed all wet and drippy. That would be very uncomfortable. So remember that that's the most forgotten step on this one, is to dry your patient's face. Respirations, what can we not tell them? Yeah, I'm counting your breathing because that makes them aware. So we want to try to not let on what we're counting here. In and out counts as 1. What is normal? 12 to 20. Very good. We're going to say start when we start counting and stop when we stop counting. And because we counted something, we have to write it down, document it. Range of motion. Remember that we do exercises to retain function, right? Keep what's already there. So if they have pain, do we keep going to the pain? No, the next one will go below the pain. And then what do? Yeah, report it. So we have 3 exercises we can do. We have flexion extension, which is up, down, abduction, adduction, which is side to side, rotation, which is around. How do we know which exercises to do on which body parts? Care plan. How do we know how many repetitions to do? Care plan. Okay. We've covered a lot of information. Am I going too fast for anybody? No? You guys feel comfortable with what you've learned? With a little bit of practice, do you think you're ready for the test?
Just a little practice, yeah.
I know you are. So let me give you some, about this point in the class, you're now starting to think about the class or the test. The class is half over. Anxiety's starting to go up a little bit, right? So let's talk just a little bit about the test and the other people that are taking the test. Because right now, again, you're comparing yourselves to me, and that's natural because that's all you've ever seen. But there's, I want you to do the skills the way I'm showing you to do them because it's the right thing to do. It's the right way to do them. But you're going to see all kinds of things on the state exam. And you're going to start, it's not until you get to the exam that you start to realize how prepared you are, basically. Okay. So let me give you some examples of things that people have done during the state exam. And you can tell me whether they're right or wrong and why. Because if you can identify wrong, you've got it down. Make sense? Okay. So during hand washing, somebody turns the water on, gets some soap, rubs for a couple of seconds, and rinses. What's wrong with that? Okay, what should you do before the soap? Wet your hands. So they didn't wet their hands. So they turned the faucet on, they got some soap, they rubbed for a few seconds, and then they rinsed. How long should we be rubbing? Does that include our nails? No. Okay, so if you guys can tell me that, I know you know how to do it. And yet during the test, you will see people that fail hand washing. Yeah, that's good. Good strategy. Probably the most common mistake that people make on the state exam is going right into the skill. And by that, I mean they don't do their opening. They don't read the care plan. They just see the title. So like perform mouth care. They don't read the care plan to figure out what's happening with this particular patient. And they just go right into the skill. They go over, they get their supplies, they put a barrier down, they put their supplies on the barrier, they put the head of the bed up, they put a towel on, and they start brushing. Well, the problem with that is, number one, you didn't let the patient know what you were doing, and they have a right to say no. If you're not explaining to them what you're doing, you're robbing them of that right. And that's actually a really big deal because that's a law. You guys see how that would be a problem? So I know I talk about the opening a lot, but the opening and the closing make up half of your checklist. So if you are practicing in here and you don't do the opening, I'm going to call you on it. I'm going to say, you need to start with the opening, do the knock, go through the steps. Because if you're in here practicing and you're not doing the opening, when you get into the testing center and you're stressed, you won't do the opening then either. So make sure you're practicing the way you're going to be tested. Does that make sense? Good. So opening and closing are really, really, really big deals. But let's go through some of the other skills real quick. Let's talk about pulse. The number one mistake that people make on pulse, and you'll probably see this, is they only count for 15 seconds. Happens all the time during testing. Why would that be a problem? Yeah, because the care plan. Absolutely. Side lying position, they get the patient too close to the bed, the edge of the bed, and they don't address it. They just leave them there, thinking that the evaluator's not going to see it or not going to care.
So if you roll them and they're too close, can you like have them adjust, like readjust?
Absolutely. I'm going to roll them back onto their back and them scooted closer to me and then re-roll them to the middle. So at the end of that skill, the patient needs to be in the middle of the bed. I don't care how you do it. You can, shift their hips backward towards you if you need to, but I don't care how you do it. But at the end of the skill, the patient needs to be where? In the middle of the bed. So the biggest advice I can give you is don't ignore what you know is right, thinking that the evaluator's not going to see it. Trust me, they do. They absolutely do. Good? Make sense? Okay. Another mistake that I see quite a bit is when we're doing foot care, we don't want the foot to be on the floor. The foot needs to be on the barrier or on the towel, but never directly on the bare floor. So be careful about that because you've only got so much space to work with. You've got your barrier there and you've got your basin and your towel on that barrier. So there's not a whole lot of space there. Don't put your patient's foot directly on the bare floor because that's just not good. Let's not do that. So another thing that we haven't gotten to feeding, I think that's one of the things we're going to do on Wednesday. But feeding, when it comes to feeding somebody, we're going to feed them a small cup of pudding or applesauce, and we're only going to give them 4 bites. We'll get into that on Wednesday. But the number one mistake on that skill is to feed them too fast. Why do you think that would happen? Okay, yeah, that's a consequence. They could choke. But why do you think that students are feeding the patients so fast? They're nervous. That's exactly it. When you are nervous, you speed everything up. So the best advice I can give you is to slow yourself down. You've got plenty of time. Plenty of time. But you've got to take the initiative to slow yourself down a little. Okay, they're looking for that. Good. You guys have the tools you need to pass the test. You do. Little practice would definitely help, for sure, because of muscle memory. And you really want that muscle memory when you go into test. But the best advice I can give you is don't put the test off because you don't think you're ready. You are. You are. I have literally thousands of people, thousands, who never sat in a classroom. They just, and this is way before I live streamed. They would just watch the skills videos, take the test and pass it. Didn't read any books. Just watched my skills videos and passed it. Now, I don't like that because I don't think they understand the importance of the care plan. But if they can just watch the skills videos and pass it, how much further along are you? And you don't have to take my word for it. You can go onto my YouTube and look at all the comments. I've got over 125,000 subscribers now. That's a lot of people. And I've helped all of them.
When you go to YouTube, you just put in like 4-year CNA.
4-year CNA. All you have to do is type in 4Y and I show up. We're,
That's the first one there.
yeah, we are well branded. I've been doing this a while. Yeah. So you guys are definitely ready for that exam. A little bit of practice would help, but you definitely are ready. Okay. All right. Let me see here. I've got a question. Good morning. How do you snap a linen? I know you're not supposed to, but I haven't seen an example. Okay. You know when you're changing the sheets on your bed at home and you want to spread out that top sheet and you do something like this? Yeah, that's snapping the linen. You don't want to snap it. You also don't want to like shake it out. So when we're working with linens, we simply unfold. Okay. Hope that helps. And let's see here. I'm currently in an 8-week CNA class, but my lecturer uses Miss Patty's videos. Glad she did. I learned more from Miss Patty than in my actual class. Now I'm on YouTube watching the weekly live. Oh, thank you, Alexis. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Well, good luck. We're glad to have you. Yeah, my videos are used by most schools around the country. I'm getting ready to redo them. I got to get them redone. All right, let's learn range of motion, hip, knee, and ankle. This is on page 80 of your book. Nothing new to learn here. We know all of these principles. We know to follow the care plan, to do our opening, evaluate if we need gloves. Remember, gloves are based on the skill, not the patient. I said that backwards. The patient, not the skill. Sorry. So I can't tell you you're going to wear gloves for every range of motion, or you're not going to wear gloves for any range of motion. It depends on the patient. If they've got a weeping shingles rash, you need gloves. Okay, so it's not based on the skill, it's based on the patient we're doing the skill on. Now, there are some skills that automatically we're going to encounter body fluids. So, of course, gloves would be indicated, like mouth care. Need gloves on for that. You're going to be touching saliva. Peri-care, you need gloves on for that. You're in their personal area and there's body fluids. So there are some skills that, because of the body fluid rule, will need gloves, but we still have to evaluate them for every skill. We're going to do the skill specific for range of motion, which we actually already know. We're going to review that and then do the closing. I always have a video available for you. If you look down here, this is test specific information. This skill should take somebody with your level of experience 4 minutes or less. This patient is going to be, for the test, is going to be a live testing student. So you might be a patient for this. That person will be positioned in the bed, and charting is not required for this particular skill. So the only thing we need to review here is the skill-specific steps. If you look on page 81, at the top of the page, we have the care plan. What do we know about the care plan? What do we do with it? Follow it. So the care plan says provide the following range of motion exercises to the resident's right hip, knee, and ankle. Right hip, knee, and ankle. Which one am I doing? Right. Can I do the left one too while I'm there? No. All right. It tells us to do flexion, extension. Remember, flexion, extension is up, down. That's all we're going to do, up, down. Provide 3 repetitions of each exercise, and the patient cannot help with the exercises. So when we're working with, get up here. When we're working with the hip and the knee, this is a little bit different than some of the other range of motions that we do. And the reason is the hip and the knee are a 2-for-1 exercise. 2-for-1 exercise. When our patient's leg is straight, this is extended. Okay. To bend it, we want to flex it. Now, if we just lifted this leg up, that would flex the hip. Come over here. So if I just lifted this leg straight up, it would flex the hip, but not the knee. The problem with that, that's called a straight leg raise. And there's a big problem with that we're going to get into in just a minute. So instead of doing a straight leg raise, instead we bend the knee at the same time. So when we bring the knee up to the chest and back down to the bed, kind of like they're walking upstairs, this is going to bend both the hip and the knee at the same time. So it's a 2-for-1 exercise. Got it? So let me explain why. Along the back, your spinal cord is inside your spine. Your spinal cord has lots of nerves coming off of it. Some of those nerves come out through your pelvis, the pelvic openings, and run right down your legs. Remember, we talked a little bit about the thumbtack in the guy's foot, right? And I said that our bodies are hardwired. We're not wireless. It's not like a wireless printer or something where the signal goes through the air. We are hardwired, and those wires are actually nerves. You can see the nerves here. Well, the problem is that these nerves are pretty tight. they're not a lot of give to them. They're not like rubber bands. They're pretty tight. So when you see how straight this is, not a lot of give to it. When we lift that leg straight up, it pulls this part of the nerve tight. And that over time, as we age, can cause a lot of pain. Have you ever heard the term sciatica? Anybody ever hear sciatica? Yeah, so that's what this is. This is the sciatic nerve. And sciatica is when we stretch that nerve and we irritate it, and it causes a lot of low back pain, butt pain, and into the top of the thigh. So we don't want to do that to our patients, so we never raise the leg straight up. We always bend at the knee when we do this. Does that make sense? Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. It's very painful. Very painful. Yeah, yeah. It's like you don't want to tell people my butt hurts, but yeah, that's exactly what's happening here. Now, physical therapists can do this, but remember, they have doctorate degrees. They learn how to do this and how to evaluate the effectiveness of the exercises that they're doing. That's not us. Good. As CNAs, anytime you raise the leg up, remember to bend the knee at the same time. That just allows a little more slack in that nerve. Doesn't pull it quite as tight. Good. So then we're going to move on to the ankle. So the first exercise is bring the knee up to the chest 3 times, and then we're going to move on to the ankle. We're going to do flexion extension of the ankle, which is bending the foot forward and back like they're stepping on a gas pedal. But we don't want that heel to scrape along the sheet while we do this. So we're going to lift that foot off the bed just a little bit to get the heel off the sheet. And then we're going to bend it forward like they're stepping on a gas pedal and then back to their head. And they'll feel a little stretch up the back. Again, if this is painful, we don't go to the point of pain. Okay. As we age, we get less bendy. So things that you can do now, you're not going to be able to do in 60 years from now. I know. I know. Nobody likes it. Aging, if you can figure out how to get rid of aging, you'll make, more than a fortune. Everybody will just throw their money at you. So, but as we age, we get less bendy. Our muscles stiffen, our nerves harden or, become less elastic. So watch your patient for signs of pain. If you see grimacing, wincing, if they say, ow, they pull their leg back, go below the point of the pain for the next one. We're just trying to maintain what they've got, not make it any better. Good? Questions? Oh, thank you, Tamika. Tamika says, we didn't feel confident and your channel was referred to us on our internship. Oh, okay. So there is a question here from Maritza. Is it capable to use 2 barriers for foot care? So we're going to go back to what we were talking about with common mistakes on the test. Can you use 2 barriers for foot care? Absolutely. You can. No problem. You can use 2 barriers for the test if you need that little bit of extra room. Remember, for the test, you're going to be kneeling on the floor. And we know the floor isn't clean. So you can put another barrier down for you to kneel on. You don't have to, because your uniform is not considered clean either. So you don't have to, but you can if you want to. All right. So we're going to follow our care plan here. We'll provide the following range of motion exercise to the resident's right hip, knee, and ankle, flexion, extension. We're going to provide 3 repetitions of each exercise, and the resident is not able to help with the exercises. So that's how we're going to do this particular skill. Give me just a second. I need to get this up and running here, and then I will show you this skill. Okay, I do need a volunteer, somebody to go lay down in that bed over there. May have to go with the top down view because give me 1 second here. Yeah, that's not on. Okay. All right, I'll just turn that off though. Okay. All right, go ahead and lay down for me if you would. And notice he put himself right in the middle of the bed. Okay, let me, give me 1 second. I'm going to move that camera angle just a little bit so you can see it. All right, hold on, guys. I got to find where we were. I forgot to look. Okay, there we are. All right, so this is our care plan, and this is the video. I know you guys at home won't be able to see me do the opening and closing, but I want you to be able to see the actual skill. Here we go. Good morning, Mr. Jones. My name is Patty. I'm your CNA today. How are you? Fantastic. I need to do some exercises on your right leg. Is that okay? I'm going to close your curtain. Let me go wash my hands, get my supplies. I'll be right back. Now, for the sake of time, I'm just going to simulate hand washing. Remember, after your first skill, you will be told to simulate. So I have clean hands. All right, Mr. Jones, I'm going to do all the work here. All you have to do is let me know if there's any pain or discomfort as we do this, okay? I'm going to lift your leg up, bend your knee to your chest, and back down to the bed. We're going to do this 3 times. So I'm always supporting from below at the joints. We're going to bend the knee. Just relax for me. I'll do the work. Up and all the way back down. That's 1. Up, all the way back down. Feel okay? And 1 more. Up, all the way back down. Good? Any pain? Okay. So now I'm going to move on to the ankle. I'm going to lift your foot off the bed. I'm going to position your foot forward like you're stepping on a gas pedal and then back to your head. You'll feel a little stretch. Let me know if it hurts. So I'm going to get the foot off the bed, forward and back. Feel okay? Forward and back. Feel that stretch. Forward and back. Good? Are you comfortable? Is there anything else I can get for you while I'm here? Okay, call light is right here if you need anything at all. There we go. Just hit the red button and somebody will be in to help you. Open the curtain. My environment is clean. I've washed my hands. I'm going to think about my skill, read the care plan again, make any corrections, and my skill is done. Thank you. Good? Questions? No? Okay, I hope you guys were able to see that. All right, so, yeah. So remember for this particular skill, we're going to do our opening. We'll evaluate if we need gloves. We support from below with a flat palm. We're going to bend the knee and the hip at the same time. Always return to start. Very important. Move slowly and smoothly with support. Flexion extension is up, down. Abduction, adduction is side to side. And rotation is around. Make sure you're monitoring for pain and doing your closing. All right, so any questions on that? Okay, we're going to move on now to denture care. So we learned mouth care earlier in the program, and somebody asked me about denture care, if we were going to learn how to work with dentures. And that's what today is going to be about, is denture care. So denture care is mouth care with an extra step. So denture care is mouth care with an extra step. Let me just get my supplies here. All right, the first thing that you have to remember about working with dentures is that you cannot touch dentures without gloves. So if you're going to touch the dentures, make sure that you have gloves on. You can touch the denture containers. That's fine, but not the dentures themselves. Okay. All right. Okay. So there's nothing new to learn here for denture care. We've learned all of our principles. So we just need to learn about the dentures themselves. Care plan is going to be at the top of page 97. Our care plan says a resident with dentures is sitting at an overbed table, just like I am, with their dentures in a denture cup, just like this. It tells us the resident's denture needs to be brushed with toothpaste and the resident needs mouth care. The denture is stored in a denture cup after cleaning, and the resident is not able to provide their own mouth or denture care. So it tells us after we're done cleaning the denture, where are we going to put it? Please do not try to put it in your person's mouth. Because this, if you go back a page, is a live student skill. That means that you might be a patient for this skill. Where does the denture go after cleaning? Yeah, don't try to put this in somebody's mouth. It's not going to fit. This is on page 97. You're welcome. I'm probably sitting in your way. I'm sorry. So remember, our care plan is there to tell us what to do for the test as well. Please don't disregard the care plan. The care plan is very important. So this is pretty easy. Your patient has already taken their denture out. It's in a cup at the side of, on the overbed table. We're sitting beside the bed. And this is how your skill is going to start. You're going to take the dentures to the sink. You're going to clean them. You're going to clean the mouth the dentures came out of using mouth care. And you're going to make sure the denture is stored in the denture cup after you clean it. So the patient can put it back in anytime they want to. But if you notice, the skill does not have you taking dentures out of a patient or putting dentures into a patient, because that is not a CNA task. CNAs do not take dentures out and they do not put dentures in. The patient must be able to do that on their own to use their dentures. So there's two reasons for that. If I have dentures in, particularly on the bottom is what we're really concerned about. If I have dentures in the bottom jaw and I want to take those dentures out, I have to reach my fingers way back in the back, way back here, like at the hinge part, and pop those dentures up and forward to get them to unseal from my gums. Make sense? So you got to go way back, pop up and forward. Now you can do that on yourselves without putting any pressure on your lower jaw because of just the way that you're positioning. But if I go to put my fingers in your mouth to pop that denture up, these two knuckles right here have to press down in order for my fingers to have leverage up. And that can dislocate a lower jaw. Do you guys see that? This is why we do not take dentures out. We also don't put dentures in, because when you put dentures in a patient's mouth, they will automatically bite down to seat those dentures along their gums. And they won't pay any attention to whether your fingers are still in their mouth or not. When dentures go in, they will subconsciously bite down. And chances are your finger will be right in the way. So CNAs do not take dentures out. CNAs do not put dentures in. The patient has to be able to do that on their own. If the patient can't do that on their own, they don't wear dentures. We puree their food. Good? Good? Okay. All right. So CNAs are going to clean both the dentures and the mouth they came out of. So this is a little bit longer skill. This is a 2-part skill. We're going to clean the dentures at the sink, and we're going to clean the mouth in the chair. So 2 parts to this. It will require 2 sets of gloves. 1 to clean the dentures. But do you think the patient wants those dirty gloves in their mouth? So we need a clean set when we do mouth care. Good? Good. All right, so 2 sets of gloves. 1 to clean the dentures, the other to clean the mouth. So with dentures, there's 2 ways to clean. And the people that make dentures actually recommend that you don't brush them with toothpaste. Toothpaste is abrasive. That toothpaste will cause little micro cracks to form on the edges of the teeth and the gums. Cracks are warm, dark, moist places for bacteria to hide. So in general, your patient may not want you to brush their teeth with toothpaste. Instead, we put them in a cup, put a couple of fizzy tablets in there, and let it fizz up. And those fizzies, those little bubbles, actually clean the dentures. It has certain chemicals that break down the polymers or the denture paste that holds the dentures in place. Breaks down food particles too. So they do a really good job, and then we just rinse them off and maybe brush them with a soft brush to get any larger food particles that may be stuck on there. But for the most part, your patients are going to want you to put them in a container, put some fizzy tablets in there, and then just rinse them and brush them off in the morning. But that's not what our care plan says. Our care plan tells us to brush the denture with toothpaste. So what do we know about the care plan? We follow it. If that's what our care plan wants us to do, that's what we're going to do. So for the test, we're actually going to take this over to the sink and brush it with toothpaste. Okay. We're going to use a special type of denture brush. It looks like this. It has a larger side and it has a smaller side. This smaller side fits in the groove or the channel of the dentures, the part that goes over the gums, because it's smaller. It'll clean that groove out better. This looks like a toothbrush. We're going to use it on the teeth part of the dentures. Gets more surface area. So denture brush is 2-sided. They just give us a smaller side for the groove. Okay. When we're cleaning the patient's mouth, we're going to use something different. You can use a toothbrush. It's okay. We're going to clean whatever the patient has in their mouth. If they have some teeth left, we're going to brush them. If it's all just gums, if we took all of their teeth and replaced them with full sets of dentures, then we'll just brush the gums. But either way, we're going to use this. This is called a toothette or an oral swab. It's soft, it's spongy, but the reason that we use this is because dentures are held in by denture paste. Denture paste is going to kind of stick to the gums, and it's going to be stringy and sticky and have food particles. Good. If you try to use a brush to get that off, it's just going to smear that denture paste. The paste will get all caught up in the bristles, and it's not going to be effective. If you use this, this is solid, so it just swipes off the denture paste. And then you can turn it a quarter turn and have another section. Then you can turn it and have another section, and then you can turn it and have another section. Good. You can use these to clean teeth or gums, either way. So let me go back here just a second. There we go. I skipped this part. So when we're talking about dentures, there's a couple of different types of dentures that you need to be aware of. When we say the word denture, we generally think of this. This is what we generally think of when we talk about dentures. This is a full plate. All of the teeth have been replaced. It has a hard palate that goes up against the roof of your mouth. This is a top plate, but it is a full plate. All of the teeth have been replaced. And when we say the word denture, this is what we usually think of. But this isn't the only type of denture there is. We also have partials because some patients still have some good teeth in their mouth. We don't want to pull out all of their teeth unless we have to. If they still have some healthy teeth remaining, we'll leave those and work around them. And that becomes a partial. So if you look at this, you can see that we've replaced some of the teeth, but we also have some gaps where the patient's natural teeth are going to fit. So this is a partial. It goes around the natural teeth to replace the ones that are missing. This is a bottom plate. So remember, the top plate has a palate, the part that sticks against the, turn around here, the part that sticks against the roof of the mouth. So this is a top full plate. This is a bottom plate because it's got a cutout for the tongue. This is a partial. Full plate, partial, top plate, bottom plate. Good. And then we also have bridges. Now, bridges are small pieces of denture. So we're just missing a couple of teeth and we want to fill in that gap. Bridges usually have some sort of a connection on each end, or now they're held in by posts. A lot of times bridges now are permanently implanted on a post. They're actually glued in place. But you will still see some bridges, especially in older individuals. Good? Questions? So there's a couple of different types of dentures, and it's good for you to understand the differences. Okay, so we're going, just like mouth care, we're going to wet our toothbrush first, put some toothpaste on it, and we're going to set it in this basin just to hold it until we're ready. We're going to do the same thing with the denture brush. We're going to wet the denture brush, put some toothpaste on both sides, and set it in the basin until we're ready. Good? Once we're ready, once we have the denture brush all set up and we're ready, then we're going to take it to the sink and set it on the side of the sink. I don't want to just put that denture brush directly on the side of the sink. The sink is not clean. We've got to have a clean place to have it hang out until we're ready. Good? Good? Okay. So when we get it over to the sink, we want to put a washcloth in the bottom of the sink, and that's going to provide a softer surface. That way, if the dentures should fall, they're not hitting a hard surface, making it likely for them to break. So we want to put a washcloth in the bottom of the sink. And even better, if we can get that washcloth over the drain. Because if we have it over the drain, that'll cause the water to pool up a little bit. And when the dentures hit the water, it'll slow the fall. They'll just kind of slowly sink, and they're less likely to break. Dentures are expensive, about $5,000. If we break them, the facility has to replace them. Okay, so this is kind of important. Good. Yeah, they're pricey. They are pricey. So we're going to put a washcloth in the bottom of the sink. Over the drain is really where we want it to be, so that water pools up a little bit. We'll use a paper towel to turn the faucet on, and we only want to use cold water, not hot water, not warm water, cold water. And the reason for that, there is a nursing principle. Those of you that go on for nursing will learn this. Heat coagulates proteins. This means nothing to CNAs. What it does mean for you is that if you use hot water, it makes the proteins in the saliva and the food stickier and harder to remove. We don't want to make this harder. So we want to use cold water. That helps remove those proteins because our saliva has proteins in it. The denture paste has proteins in it. The food we eat has proteins in it. We want to remove those proteins easier, so we're going to use cold water. Okay. All right. We're going to wear gloves when we're handling the dentures. We're going to wet the denture. And then, hold on. And then we're going to brush all surfaces, whatever we see. We're going to brush the channel with this part. We're going to brush the teeth with this part. It doesn't matter how long you brush, as long as the whole denture has toothpaste on it. Okay? Doesn't matter how long this takes you. Once you get the whole denture clean, then you're going to rinse it out. Now, these are real dentures. These are real dentures. They haven't really been worn by anybody, but they are real dentures. Please be careful not to break them because I don't have very many left. So be careful with these, but these are real dentures. Now, in the practice kit, which I have down here, for those of you who decide to buy a practice kit to practice with at home, we have dentures in there as well. Those dentures are a little bit sturdier for practice. And this is what they look like. They have a channel, just like regular dentures do, but they're a little bit sturdier, so you're less likely to break them for practice. Good? Okay. But these are real. So when you're brushing these dentures in here, please make sure that you have a washcloth in the bottom of the sink so they don't break. Okay. Once we start brushing, we don't want to put the dentures down in the sink. Remember, our sink is not clean. We don't want to put the dentures down in the sink. So we want to keep them in our hand. We're going to brush all surfaces and rinse them with them in our hand. Don't set them down. But now that we have clean dentures, we need a clean place to put them. So we're going to hold the dentures in one hand, take the denture cup, dump it out, rinse it out, fill it up with cool water, and put our denture back in, clean denture in the cup with cool, clean water. That cup is going to be wet. You've just rinsed it out, rinsed it off. It's going to be wet. If I take a wet cup and put it on a surface like this, what's going to happen to this surface? Yeah, it's going to warp up. It's going to disfigure the furniture. So when we have a cup of water with dentures in it, we want to get a paper towel to put under it to use as a coaster. Okay, good. So we're going to fill our denture cup. We're going to put our dentures in the denture cup with cool water, and then we're going to put it on a paper towel on the bedside table. Once we've got the dentures done, now we can switch over. We'll bring our, take care of our washcloth, bring our basin and our denture brush back over to the table and remove our gloves because now we're going to do mouth care. So mouth care is just mouth care. Put the towel on the patient, wet the toothette, put some toothpaste on it, put our gloves on, brush everything they got. We are going to throw that toothette away at the end of the skill. This is disposable. This, like a toothbrush, will just get rinsed out and reused. Good? Remember that we want to wear gloves to do mouth care. And the first thing your gloves should touch is the patient. So you'll just do mouth care with that toothette. Leave the patient's mouth clean and dry. And all of the same steps for mouth care will be done for denture care as well. Good? Questions? I'm going to show you the video on this one because it's got good close-ups, and then we'll take a quick break.
Here's a good question. Do you have to wash your hands between glove changes for dentures and brushing teeth? No, you don't, because it's the same patient. Okay, same cootie, same patient. You don't have to wash you can if you want to, but you don't have to wash your hands in between. You can, but not required.
That's a good question.
Yeah, it is a good question.
Hello,
Hi, Mr. Jones. My name is Patty. I'm your CNA today. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Wonderful. I need to do denture care on you. Is that okay?
Yes.
I'm going to take your dentures to the sink. I'm going to close the privacy curtain and wash my hands. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Jones. I'm going to place a barrier on the table so we have a clean area to place the clean supplies. And then I'll gather the supplies that I need. We'll need a cup of water, a toothette, a denture brush, toothpaste, a basin, a washcloth and a towel, and 2 sets of gloves. Okay, we're going to get the denture brush ready for use, so I'll wet it and apply a little bit of toothpaste to both sides. We'll allow the basin to hold that denture brush until we're ready to use it. I'll be right back, Mr. Jones. I'm going to go clean your dentures.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Jones, I'm just going to set your dentures over here so that you have them if you should need them later.
Okay.
I'll place the denture brush on the barrier and now we'll remove these gloves. And we'll throw those away. Do you mind if I place a towel over your chest?
That's fine.
This will help keep your clothing clean.
Thank you.
We're going to prepare for the mouth care portion of this skill. We'll take the toothette and wet it. Apply a little bit of toothpaste to one area of the toothette and apply gloves. Okay, Mr. Jones, I'm going to brush all surfaces of your teeth now. So in a moment, I'll need you to open your mouth wide so that I can reach the back teeth.
Okay.
Okay, can you open your mouth? Thank you. I'm going to brush the back on the bottom and on the top, both sides. Okay, can you bring your teeth together, please? Thank you very much. We're going to throw the toothette away. And would you like to rinse? Very good. Would you like another rinse?
Yes, please.
Another rinse?
No, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to remove your towel and we'll place this in dirty linen. We'll throw away the disposables. And now I'm going to clean your basin. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'll place the denture brush and the toothpaste in the basin and open the drawer with the paper towel to store the basin and other supplies. I'll remove the barrier from the table and we'll throw this away as well. Now I can remove my gloves. Mr. Jones, are you comfortable?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I get you a magazine?
No, thank you.
Is there anything else that you need?
No, thank you.
Your call light's right there. If you should need anything, just let me know. I'm going to open your curtain and go wash my hands.
Thank you.
After washing my hands, I'll think about the steps of my skill, make any corrections, and then tell the evaluator my skill is done. Yes.
When we're in the test, we say we're opening the drawer and putting supplies back. We're actually saying that to the instructors or the what do they call them? The ones watching this.
Yeah, the evaluators.
Evaluators.
So, yes, that is correct, but the evaluators know what you're doing.
Okay.
Do you know who doesn't know what you're doing in their drawer?
The patient.
Right. What might they have in that drawer?
Personal stuff.
Yeah, if you're going into a patient's drawer, they really need to know why.
So we are letting them. We're letting the patient know, not the evaluator.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Remember that we have to think about this from the patient's point of view.
Right.
Right? So that drawer has all of their stuff in it. They might have candy bars in there that they're saving for a special occasion. They might have their wallet in there. They might have a cell phone charger in there. They might have their rings in there that they took off for a procedure. They may have, any amount of personal items in there. So if you're going to be going into a closed personal space, your patient really needs to know why. And that helps put them at ease. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Trust me, those evaluators know what you're doing. You're not really saying the steps for them.
No, but they want to hear it that we're
They
talking,
do wanna hear it.
communicating with the patient.
Right, because it's not about keeping the evaluators informed, it's about keeping
The
the,
patient. It's about the patient.
right. So remember our banner over here at the top of everything, it's always about the
Patient.
Patient. So that means the test too. The test is all about the patient. Has nothing to do with you. That test has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with how that patient is being treated. Okay? You're just the person doing the treatment. You're secondary. You're an afterthought. It's how is that patient being treated? Good. Any questions? Okay, I do have an announcement here. Marie says, thank God I passed my exam a few months ago. Thank you, Mrs. Patty. Congratulations. All right. Let's go ahead and take our okay. This TV did some stuff on its own. Let's go ahead and take our break. And when we come back, we're going to get into Ambulate with a Gait Belt and partial bed bath, which is the longest skill that we do. So let's go ahead and take a break. Oh, my break button isn't working. Okay.
At the end of class, can I also get the sheets of the test papers that you have at the end? Oh, thanks. The test papers at the end.
The worksheets?
Yeah.
They're right there.
Oh,
Yep, you can take whatever you need.
wow. I didn't know that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you sell water?
No, unfortunately, I don't.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Excuse me.
Okay, a couple questions here. How many times are we going to wash the patient's denture in a day? How would we know that?
Care plan.
Care plan. Yeah, in general, it's going to be once a day, but your care plan will indicate. If the patient is immobile, how can you do the mouth care? Again, this is going to be dictated by the care plan. So the care plan is going to tell you how to adapt these skills to this particular patient. So, generally speaking, if the patient is immobile, that means that they can't spit, so we're not going to use toothpaste. But you want to get the head either turned to the side or sit the patient up, one or the other, to try to prevent aspiration. All right, any questions on that? All right, let's move on. Practice kit. Let's talk about practice kit real quick. You guys have this room to be able to practice in. And I'm hoping to give you about 20 minutes of practice time today in class, 20 to 30, depending on how we end. But if you don't, and I can't keep you here in practice. I mean, you're adults. You can leave anytime you want to. But if you're not practicing here, you need to be practicing somewhere. So that's what's going to give you the confidence you need for testing. If you're attending virtually, or if you can't stay for practice, this practice kit will help you. It's got everything you need to be able to practice all of the skills. And it does include dentures, denture simulators, and the denture cup too. So especially this particular skill, if you're not practicing in here, chances are you don't have dentures hanging around at home, to practice with. So the practice kit will help you. For you guys in class, the denture kit is $45.99 while you're enrolled. So up through graduation day. This kit's $45.99. On my website, it's $64.99. So you guys get a huge discount just by being enrolled in the class. All right, so let's talk about energy conservation. This is on page 63. This is a hard concept for you guys because you're young. The best way for me to explain it is, how many of you guys have seen a 2-year-old? Cute little guys, right?
Yeah.
I love 2-year-olds. They have so much energy. They're so optimistic. They're great. But have you ever tried to explain to a 2-year-old why you don't have the energy they do?
Oh yeah, every day.
Yeah, they just don't get it, do they?
Yeah, no.
They don't get it. They're like, come play with me. Oh my gosh, I'm too tired. They don't get it. Why don't they get it? I mean, they hear your words. Why can't they get
They've
it?
never been there.
Okay, they've never been there. They've never experienced it, right? So I want you to remember that. It's hard to understand what you've never experienced,
Unless it's bedtime.
right? But do you guys understand that? It's hard to understand what you've never experienced, right? So that's going to lead us off into the next subject we're going to cover, which is energy conservation. So our energy levels actually decline through our lifespan. And in reality, 2-year-olds, that's the max energy you will ever have.
So as a baby.
Yep. That is the maximum amount of energy you'll ever have. And I'll prove it to you. Let's go out to 12. Okay. So just 10 years later, 12-year-olds still have tons of energy. They can play basketball, skateboard, play video games. They do all kinds of stuff. But you put that 12-year-old in charge of that 2-year-old for one afternoon, who wins?
2-year-old.
Every time. That 12-year-old will be like, oh my gosh, Mom, can't they just take a nap? I don't want to play anymore. What does that tell us about their energy? It has gone down, right? Yes. So let's go out to 22. 22-year-olds, man, they shop till they drop, go out at night looking fabulous. right? Party all night, but you still don't have the same energy level you had when you were 12. Go out to 42. Now, 42-year-olds will shop till they drop, but that's at like 2, and we're going home. We're not going out because our energy levels have fallen even further. 62-year-olds, we're talking about putting our feet up before we make dinner now. We need a little bit of more rest periods. We might even be thinking about retirement because there's just not enough energy for all of our day-to-day tasks that we have to do and working. So energy levels have fallen even further. What do you think it's going to be like when we're 82? Do you guys understand this? Okay, you're somewhere over here. Remember we just talked about we can't understand something we haven't experienced? So just like you trying to explain to that 2-year-old why you don't have any energy, that 82-year-old is trying to explain it to you and you don't get it either. Does that make sense? Your patients will tell you, "Oh, honey, I don't have the energy for that shower today." And you're thinking in your mind, "What do you mean you don't have the energy? I'm doing all the work. All you're doing is sitting there, right? What do you mean you don't have the energy?" You are trying to understand something you have never experienced. It's just like that 2-year-old. They're not going to get it when you say you don't have the energy to chase them around the yard again. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Don't argue with them. If they say, "I don't have the energy," believe them. They don't have the energy. No amount of badgering by you is going to create energy magically. It doesn't work. Didn't work for the 2-year-old either. Make sense? And this is not something that we tend to think about when we're working with older patients. If this is all the energy you have for the day, and it's got to last you all day, no, stop. If it's got to last you all day, we have to start thinking about what types of things our patients have to do with that amount of energy. So what do we do every day that takes energy?
ADL.
Okay, so let's get a little more specific. What about getting out of bed? Does that take energy? Okay, getting out of bed takes like half of my daily energy because I like my bed, right? So when I get up, what's first place I usually hit? When you get up, what's first place you go? Bathroom. Does that take energy? Yeah. You probably get yourself some coffee or something to eat or drink or, get going during the day. That takes energy. You have to bathe. That takes energy. You have to groom. That takes energy. So mobility, eating, drinking, dressing, toileting, grooming, all of those things take energy. And we all know this. How much energy does our patient have? Very little. So think about all of those tasks we just talked about. Each one requires that I get up and down. You ever seen an old person try to get out of a chair? Yeah. I'm getting way too close for comfort here. I'm getting older. So an older person getting out of a chair a lot of times looks like this. They start to rock. Mm-hmm. And they rock to get momentum because what you lack in strength, you have to make up for in energy. How much energy do we have? Very little. So if I'm an older person and I've got to use more energy to get up because remember we talked about chapter 4, our muscle strength declines. It may look something like this. Oh, no. Yeah. How much energy did that take?
A lot.
Took way more energy to do that than it did to do this, right? Way more energy. So if we've only got that much energy, and we know we have to get up out of bed, and we've got to walk to the toilet and sit down and get back up from the toilet, and then we go to the dining room table, and we sit down and we get back up from the dining room table, and each time it's taking that amount of energy, are you starting to see that we may run out of energy before we run out of day? So you come in at 4 o'clock and you say, hey, Mildred, are you ready for your shower? And she says, oh, no, I don't have the energy for that. Like, remember, you're way up here and you're thinking, what do you mean you don't have the energy? You haven't done anything all day. Yes, they have. Keep that in mind. They have less energy and each task is going to take more of it. Does that make sense? Good. Again, this isn't something that we tend to think about because we have no experience with it. But the real problem here is not the things that we know take energy. Okay? Sure, we know that we have to have energy to eat. Have you ever been too tired to eat? If you've ever been too tired to something, you know that something takes energy, right? Have you ever been too tired to talk?
Yes.
Sure. Mondays and Wednesdays, I talk a lot. When I get home, I usually don't want to do a whole lot of talking because I teach in here and then I help at the store. By the time I get home, I've used up my words for the day. I'm pretty good. Right? I'm tired. I didn't used to be like that. What changed? Age. I got old. That's right. My energy levels decline. But there's also energy required in things that aren't so obvious. Breathing takes energy. If you've ever had a cold that made it hard to breathe, you know that breathing takes energy. So does digestion. So when we eat our food, we have to digest it, and that takes energy. That's right. Our kidneys filtering our blood takes energy. Our pancreas producing insulin takes energy. So there's a lot of energy being used that we don't even see. We focus on this stuff. Right? But a lot of energy is being used by things that we don't necessarily see. And yet it's still using energy. And if this is all I've got, I may quickly run out of energy for the day. Make sense?
Yes.
So, the name of the game here is energy conservation. What are some things that we can do as caregivers to help our patients conserve some of their energy to get through the day? Remember I said when strength goes down, energy has to go up. It's kind of like a seesaw. So if they don't have a whole lot of strength, if I can lend them some of mine, it means they don't have to use as much energy. So helping our patients stand up or sit down might be a good place to start. That helps them conserve some of their energy. Now let's talk about the consequences of this though. If we're 82 and we only have this much energy to get through our day and we know all this other stuff requires all this energy, if we run out of energy before we run out of day, that means our patient probably isn't going to eat a very good meal in the evening because they're out of energy. So if they're not eating well, what do you think is going to happen to tomorrow's energy levels? They're going to be less. They're going to be diminished. This can start a rapid spiral down, and it's a failure to thrive situation. So don't dismiss this and think that it's not anything important. This actually is probably one of the most important concepts that you need to understand as a CNA. Because if we don't conserve our patients' energy where we can, it can actually prematurely speed their death. Make sense? CNAs, what we do matter. It matters. Good? Make sense? So that's what this skill that we're going to learn is all about. It's about learning how to help our patients stand up and provide some stability while they're walking and monitor them for signs of weakness or dizziness or anything like that that could potentially lead to a fall. So this skill is largely having to do with safety. Okay, good. So if you go to page 66, we are going to finish up our final principle today. So this is it. This is the last one. Now, we already know a little bit about shoe rules. We know when a patient's feet hit the floor, we talk about their shoes. And we know that slipper socks are not enough. We learned that last week. But we're going to add some new topics to that principle that are important. And this is the last one we have to learn. Okay? So this skill involves skill rules. We follow the care plan. The opening, we'll evaluate for gloves, shoe rules, skill specific, and the closing. Of course, I have a video for it. And down here is test information. This skill should take somebody with your experience 5 minutes or less. We're just walking somebody. So we know everything except for shoe rules. We know some of shoe rules, but we're going to focus on the rest of them now. And that's what we're going to learn today. So page 67 has our step-by-step instructions. At the top of the page is our care plan. It says to ambulate the resident at least 10 steps. Use a gait belt or transfer belt. Patient will be sitting in a chair at the side of the bed with shoes on. Patient is able to walk but needs assistance to stand. Good. All right. So for this skill, your patient is going to be sitting in a chair close to the bed. Your job is to lift them to a standing position, walk them at least 10 steps. That's round trip, guys. 5 steps in one direction, 5 steps back. 10 steps. So we're not walking very far. This isn't about the walk. It's about the stand and sit. But the walk is important because when you're walking somebody, you want to make sure that there's nothing in our way. So scope out your area first. We don't want to try to maneuver somebody around obstacles. But the real problem here is that patients don't just walk along. I'm fine, everything's good. They don't do that. Patients that are going to fall always give us clues that they're going to fall. They start to slow down. Or they might start to wobble a little. Or they could put their hand out against the wall. Or maybe put their hand up on their head or on their stomach. They get pale and sweaty. They let us know that something is going very wrong in their world. And if we don't pick up on that, if we just keep walking them, they will fall. So what ends up happening is when we're walking a patient, we don't pay attention to the patient. We pay attention to everything else. Our phone, talking to somebody at the end of the hallway. We're paying attention to everything but the patient. The patient ends up on the ground, and then we go, well, I don't know. We were walking along, and they fell. No, you were walking along, and you weren't paying attention to the patient. You guys understand the difference there? So when you're walking the patient, where should your focus be? 100%. And the evaluators are looking for that. So you want to ask the patient, how are you feeling? Are you dizzy? You want to make sure you're checking in with them as you're walking so you can gauge where they are. Okay, good? Good. So to do that, when I'm walking a patient, they're going to be right here, slightly in front and to one side. I'm going to have my hand on the gait belt in an underhand grip. This hand is going to let me know if the patient starts doing this because I'll feel it. This hand is going to let me know when the patient slows down or starts to lean forward because I'm going to feel it. So this hand is going to give me a lot of information. Good. My eyes should be on the patient as well as the the route that I'm taking. But my eyes need to be on the patient. Are they getting pale, sweaty? Are they looking funny? Pay attention to the patient. Good. Questions so far? Everybody good? All right. Good morning, everybody. All right. So let's get into skill rules here. Or shoe rules, I'm sorry. Shoe rules exist for the safety of the patient. We already know the first two. If the patient's feet hit the floor, we talk about their shoes, and slipper socks are not enough. So this care plan actually tells us the patient's sitting in a chair at the side of the bed with their shoes on. So we don't have to put shoes on. Yay. That helps. So they've done the hard work for us for the test. For the test, you may be a patient for this skill. It says the patient is able to walk, but needs assistance to stand. So if you're a patient for this skill, you need to walk like you walk. You need to walk like you walk, not like a 90-year-old. Walk like you walk. Nothing theatrical should happen here. Be careful not to try to overact. The evaluators will stop you from doing that. But when you're walking, you're going to walk in five steps in one direction and 5 steps back. But the evaluator is actually going to give you a destination when you're the CNA for this. So, Catherine, if you're going to walk somebody, they would say walk to the camera and back, or walk to the desk and back, or they're going to give you a destination that's about 5 steps. Good. Follow the instructions. But they're also going to do something very sneaky. This skill is one of the few where they do try to throw you a curveball. I'm going to tell you about it, so it won't be a curveball for you guys, but they do try to throw you a curveball during the test. So, remember I told you they're going to give you a destination, right? So, like, walk to the desk and back. One of those evaluators is going to put something in your path. So your job before you stand that patient up is to look at that path that they told you and see if there's an obstacle. There will be. Your job is to move that obstacle before you stand the patient up. Because if you leave that patient to move the obstacle, you're no longer observing the patient. Make sense? Yes. Good. That is the big safety point for this skill. Is never leave your patient. Now let's talk about what happens. Let's talk about what happens when your patient does get a little funny looking, or slows down, or gets a little wobbly, or whatever the case may be, right? And you're thinking, oh, this guy's not going to make it. What do we do? Well, what most CNAs try to do is hurry the patient back to safety. Right? We want to get them back to the room, back to the chair, back to safety. They're not tolerating a slow walk. What makes you think they're going to tolerate a rush? This is how falls happen. You'll make it back to the room, but they're not tolerating a slow walk. So when we have a patient who gets all wobbly on us or looks like they're going to go down, we need to get them sitting on the floor wherever they are. Help them to the floor. So remember, my patient is right here. I'm slightly behind into one side. I've got that gait belt and an underhand grip like this. So if my patient starts getting a little wobbly on me as we're walking, I start to feel something. This foot goes right here in between their legs. And I pull the patient back against me. So now I am holding that patient in place. And then I tell them I'm going to lower you to the floor. And I'll just slide them right down my leg to the floor. A patient sitting on the floor can't fall on the floor. Yeah, there's nowhere for them to go. That keeps your patient safe. Whatever they come into contact with on the floor, we can wash off. We have soap and water. That's not a big deal. We can't wash off a broken hip. Make sense? So if your patient gets a little squirrely, a little wobbly, what are you going to do? Get them sitting on the floor and get somebody to go get the nurse. We'll get we'll get however many people we need to get the patient up off the floor and back to bed, with a wheelchair or whatever we're going to use. It's fine. But don't rush the patient back to the room. They're not going to make it. Good? Yeah, 10 minutes ago, if I would have asked you, every one of you would have rushed that patient back to that room. Because you're looking for safety. They're not going to make it. Good? Did you learn something there?
Yeah.
All right. So now let's talk about our skill rules themselves. We're going to start out with slipper socks are not enough. We talked about this in over here. We talked about this in a previous lesson that slipper socks are not enough. They don't protect the patient from pathogens or sharp objects that might be on the floor. So we're going to have to make sure the patient has shoes on for this particular skill. Luckily for the test, they will. They already have shoes on. Just a little bit. They already have shoes on. So that makes it a little bit easier for the test. They're not going to make you stoop down and put the patient's shoes on. But you do want to say something about those shoes. Like, I see you have shoes on. Are your shoes tied appropriately? Do your shoes fit well? I don't care what you say. You need to acknowledge those shoes. That tells the evaluators you know they're important. Okay. For this skill, we're going to use a gait belt. Now, a gait belt is a flat canvas belt that has a metal buckle on it. And I'm going to show you how to secure this. Now, we have these here on the supply shelf for you guys to practice with. We also have them in the practice kits as well. So a gait belt comes in the kit. And this is just a good thing to have as a CNA because you never know if your facility is going to have one or they tend to walk. So write your name on if you buy one, write your name on yours. So this is a flat canvas belt with a metal buckle. It doesn't matter whether the buckle faces this way or the buckle faces this way. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. What matters is the tag goes in, like every other article of clothing. So you're going to put this on around your patient's waist, not yours, your patient's waist. And it's at their natural waist. When you put this on, you want to keep it from twisting over, though. It needs to be flat. So I'm going to put this on me just to demonstrate how to buckle it. But remember, this goes on your patient's waist. So this goes around their waist, making sure that it's flat and not twisted. So flat and not twisted. When you get it around their waist, you put the free end through the first guard by the alligator teeth. Just like that. And you pull this tail the direction the teeth are pointing. If I try to pull it this way, it's not going to go anywhere. I want to pull the direction the teeth are pointing until it's snug. I should only be able to fit 4 fingers between the belt and the patient. The number one error that is made with this particular skill is people put the gait belt on like this. And it's got too much of a gap. When you go to lift the patient, we get skinnier when we stand up. Our torso elongates. So when we go to stand the patient, this is going to go up underneath their breasts, underneath their arms, or they'll just slide right out of it. So when you put this gait belt on, it's got to be snug enough to stay where it's put. Once you get it snug enough, and we check it with 4 fingers, they need to hear that you check it with 4 fingers. Then you're going to put the tail through the second guard to lock it in place. This tail is hanging down in your way. If it's too long, just tuck it up into the belt. To remove the gait belt, we're going to undo it from the second guard, and then you hold this tail steady. You hold it in place at about a 45-degree angle, and you slide the buckle along it. So when you put it on, you pull the tail. When you take it off, you pull the buckle. Okay? When you take this off, do not slide it, along the patient's skin. Listen. You hear that? That's going to leave a burn on the patient. That's going to leave a burn. So we don't want to do that. We're going to loop it over, holding that buckle just so that we don't hit them over the head. Or you can reach around, but don't pull. Good? Questions? So the gait belts are applied around the patient's waist. The tag is going to be on the inside. It must be snug. We should only fit 4 fingers between the belt and the patient. And then before we stand them, their feet must be flat on the floor. Remember, we want to remove any obstacles out of the way, but you have to verbally check this during the exam. Are your feet flat on the floor? There's a problem with this particular part that I want to talk to you guys about. So I'm going to have to adjust my camera here just a little bit, just so. So you can see the chair. I'm short. When I sit with my hips against the back of the chair, look at my feet. Can you see them up there? What are my feet doing?
They're not touching the ground.
Yeah, my toes are, but my feet are not flat on the ground. So during the exam, if you look at this and you think, okay, well, her feet are touching the ground, and you try to lift me from this position, I'm on my tiptoes. What's going to happen when you lift me up out of this chair? I'm going to fall forward. That's right. Is that safe?
No.
So for the test, you've got to look at the feet and you've got to ask, are your feet flat on the floor? And you ask me that, I'm going to go, no. Let me scoot forward. So you just have the patient scoot forward, and now my feet are flat on the floor. Good? Okay. Now we're going to use this for body mechanics, because with body mechanics, we used to train people to stand knee to knee and toe to toe. So somebody would stand directly in front of me with their feet facing mine, toe to toe. And they would lift me up toward them. But there's a physics principle here. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. You guys remember hearing that in high school? Yeah. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So let's say that I'm lifting a patient toward me, and the patient's about 150 pounds. If I'm lifting that patient up toward me at about 150 pounds, that's 150 pounds of force that is pushing me backwards. So I've got 150 pounds coming this way and 150 pounds pushing that way, which means that my lower back has to absorb all of that force. And it doesn't take long before my lower back feels it. Back injuries are the #1 reason CNAs leave the job. So, yeah, #1 reason. So we don't want you toe to toe because of that force coming at you. So instead, we're going to use something called an oblique angle. So if you look at my feet when I'm sitting, okay, see how there's a line going in front of my feet and a line on each side? It makes a box. I'm actually sitting in a box. You can see the lines on the floor. I'm sitting in a box. We're going to use that box for body mechanics. So if I've got a patient sitting there with their feet on the floor, This foot is going to go across, so it keeps their feet from coming out. This foot goes parallel to the chair. And then I'm going to bend at the knees, not the waist. Reach around the back of the gait belt, have them put their hands on my shoulders. We'll talk about that in a minute. And on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, I'm going to stand. And when I do that, I remain stable because I'm off to the side. And it doesn't injure my back. Good? Okay. We're going to make our patient a partner by counting to 3 as we lift them. 1, 2, 3. Because whatever your patient can do, we want them to do. We don't want dead weight. We want them to be a partner in this. So we're going to count to 3 before we lift them and before we sit them. This is that oblique angle. You can see the foot across their feet, perpendicular. This foot is parallel to the chair. The gait belt is being held around the sides or the back, never the front. We never hold the gait belt in the front and pull. We lift from the sides to the back. And your patient's hands need to be on your shoulders. Once we get them standing up, we're going to ask, are you dizzy? If they say yes, we're going to sit them down. We're not going for a walk. I lift that patient up and say, are you dizzy? And they go, yeah, I'm not feeling right. Down we go. I want to know here. I don't want to know over there. Because if I finally ask, hey, are you dizzy way over there? And she says, yes, what am I going to do? I mean, I got to put her on the floor. Better to know here. So always ask as soon as you stand them up. Patient has to know that the chair is behind them before we ask them to sit. This is important. If you get me to here and you say, no, I'm not touching that chair. And you say, okay, have a seat. I have no idea if there's something back there that's going to catch me. No clue. So I'm not just going to sit down. I'm going to kind of stiffen up and do, right? That's going to hurt me or you. So in order to have a patient sit, you need to ask them to back up so that they can feel that chair behind their legs, just like you do. And then help them sit using the gait belt. Okay? Good? Yes. So we want to use proper body mechanics when we're lifting. Make sure you're bending at the knee, not the waist. That'll keep your back safe. And make sure the patient's hands are on your shoulders. So in your book, I'm not sure where it is now. There's a picture somewhere in here. I'm not sure where it's at. All right, I'll find it. But there's a picture in here that oh, here it is, right there. I'm sorry. Page 61 at the top. On page 61 at the top, you'll see a picture of somebody being lifted up with a gait belt, and their arms are at their sides. Do you see how their shoulders are back? This is not good body mechanics at all. Not good body mechanics at all. We want our patient to move as a unit, which is why I want their hands on your shoulders, not around your neck, just resting on your shoulders. That moves them as a unit. It keeps them all up and down. We want to make sure we're removing the obstacles before we stand our patient. So look around. Gait belts go over the patient clothing. We're going to hold the gait belt around the back or sides, not the front. There it is. I knew I had a picture. Their hands should be on your shoulders. See how the top of her torso is leaning back? That's gonna have you pull her middle first. That's gonna get her off balance and could increase the likelihood of her falling.
We're going to let our patient lead. We're going to walk slightly behind and to one side. And we just had a comment come in just a minute ago that says, which hand do you have to use for the gait belt? And the answer is whichever hand you want. If you're right-handed, I hold. Sorry, guys, hold on. I hold the gait belt with my dominant hand because it's the hand that's most sensitive. So I want to make sure that I can feel those little wobbles or the slowing down or whatever. So I hold with my right hand because it's the most sensitive. But if you're left-handed, you can hold with your left hand. It doesn't mean I can't hold with my left hand. It's just I prefer my right. Okay, good. Hope that helps. All right. We want to monitor how they feel throughout the skill. We're going to control the descent using the gait belt as they sit. And we don't want to pull that gait belt across the body when we remove them. Check to make sure your patient is seated properly before you end the skill. Hips are back against the back of the chair. Feet are hanging down. And I'm going to show you the video for this one. Pay attention to the body mechanics for this.
Hello?
Hi, Mr. Jones. My name is Patty. I'm your CNA today. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Wonderful. Would you like to go for a walk?
Sure.
Okay, let me close your curtain, wash my hands, get my supplies, and I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, are you dizzy at all?
No.
Wonderful. I'm going to place this gait belt around your waist. This is going to help me lift you to a standing position and provide some stability as we walk. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to slide this around your waist. And if you can lift your arms and just relax. I'm going to place the free end through the first guard. I want it snug enough to fit 4 fingers. That's not too tight, is it?
No.
There we go. Okay, can you bring your feet together and are they flat on the floor?
Yes.
I see you're wearing shoes, so we're safe to walk. I need you to place your hands on my shoulders and I'm going to use the gait belt to lift you to a standing position.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to place 1 foot in front, 1 foot beside. Go ahead and put your hands up here, and on the count of 3, we're going to stand. 1, 2, 3. Feel okay?
Yes.
Are you dizzy at all?
No.
Okay, I'm going to let you lead. We'll walk to that bed. Are you comfortable?
Yes.
Feeling okay?
Yes.
And then you can turn around. We'll walk back to the chair. When you get to the chair, turn around and back up so the back of your legs hit the chair and you know it's there. You're going to put your hands on my shoulders and we're going to sit the same way we stood. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Very good. Are you comfortable?
Yes, ma'am.
Dizzy at all?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to remove the gait belt. Is there anything else I can get for you while I'm here?
No, ma'am.
Magazine, perhaps?
No, thank you.
Okay, here's your call light. If you should need anything at all, please let me know. I'm going to open your privacy curtain and wash my hands. Thank you.
Thank you.
After washing my hands, I'll think about the steps of my skill, make any corrections, and then tell the evaluator my skill is done. The gait belt goes back on the shelf where you got it from. I know I didn't show that step. Sorry. Gait belt just goes back on the shelf where you got it from before you wash your hands. So everybody good with that? It's a pretty easy one, right? Mm-hmm. It's short. It's a short skill. Most of the mobility skills, remember on day 1 I told you that for the test, the skills part of the test, you're going to get 1 ADL skill. Bathing, dressing, grooming, toileting,
bathing. One mobility skill. Mobility skills are ambulate, transfer from bed to wheelchair, the 3 range of motions, and sideline position, turning a patient over onto their side. So all of the mobility skills are pretty easy. And ADL skills, you do those in yourselves every day. So they give you 1 ADL skill, 1 mobility skill, and 1 documentation skill. So it's not too bad. Okay. Good. All right, moving on to page 126, we're going to get into partial bed bath. Now, this is the longest skill that we do. If you look down here at the bottom of the page, you'll see that somebody with your level of experience should be able to do this skill in 19 minutes. Yeah. Now, the good news is it's only on 1 skill set for the test. Just 1. So you've only got 1 in 11 chance of getting the skill. So less than 10% chance. But if you do get it, you get 2 super short skills to go with it, like respirations and range of motion. So it's not a bad skill set to have. Partial bed bath is just washing, and we're going to wash whatever the care plan tells us to wash. Now, there's nothing new to learn. We know to follow the care plan. We know to do the opening. We know to evaluate if we need gloves, and you do, because you're washing body openings, so we need gloves. We know to use a barrier for our supplies. We know to use a privacy blanket because our patient is undressed. We know to that linen rules apply because we're going to get washcloths and towels and privacy blankets and such. We know that the patient always needs to be in the middle of the bed. We know whatever we wash, we rinse. Whatever rinse, we dry. We know how to clean the basin. We're simply going to rinse it, dry it, and store it. And we know how to do the closing. So, yeah, there's lots and lots of steps here, for sure. There's a lot of steps here, but none of them are new. They're pretty easy. Now, there is one thing that I do have to teach you with this skill, though. Just one. The rest of it you already know. It's going to look very familiar, but there is one thing that we do need to learn. So let's go to page 127 and read the top of the page, which is where our care plan is located. Care plan tells me give the resident a partial bed bath and a back rub. Wash the resident's face, neck, chest, abdomen, back, and 1 arm and hand with soap and water. Let's stop there for a second. That's pretty detailed, isn't it? I'm going to make this a little easier for you. Face to waist, front and back, 1 arm and hand. Okay, so we're going to simplify this. Face to waist, front and back, 1 arm and hand. Let's talk about why 1 arm, though. Maybe, possibly, this patient has an incision on 1 arm or a cast on 1 arm, and we just don't want you washing it. That's a possibility. But for the test, it's really because those evaluators want to be where? Home. In their pools, drinking their Mai Tais. They do not want to be watching you do things unnecessarily. They figure if they watch you wash 1 arm, rinse 1 arm, and dry 1 arm, they know you got it. They don't need to see it done on the other side. Okay. They actually tried to shorten this even further and just have you do half of the torso. But that got really confusing to students. they didn't really understand that. So they went back to just 1 arm. Good? Makes sense? If you remember that those evaluators really want to be home, the care plans for the test start to make a little more sense. Okay, good? All right. It tells us to provide a brief back rub with lotion. Now, we're not massage therapists. We're not deep tissuing anything. That's not what this is. We are simply trying to restore circulation. This patient's laying on their back. We just want to wake up those capillaries, get blood flowing in the area. But it also makes your patient feel good. You know, when you were a little kid and didn't feel good, mom came along, just kind of rubbed your back real light, and you always felt a little better. That's all we're doing here, is helping our patients feel better. We're going to use some lotion because we have gloves on and we don't want, friction burns on the patient. So a little lotion. Anytime we use lotion, we warm it up and what do we do after we put it on? Wipe it off. Okay. Tells us to dress the resident in a clean hospital gown after bathing. Patients lying on back and center of bed can roll as directed. So we can ask them, scoot toward me, roll over. But it's too weak to assist with bathing. The problem is that this is being done on a mannequin. So we can ask the mannequin to turn, but we're still going to have to do the work. But you don't have to do the whole arm up, arm over, leg bent, leg angled. You don't have to do that. Just have them scoot towards you and then roll the mannequin up. And when you get the mannequin on her side, she won't stay there. Mannequins don't stay on their sides. So the evaluator is going to reach over and hold that mannequin for you. You won't even have to ask them. They're just going to reach over. They know it's a mannequin. They know she doesn't stay on their side. They're just going to reach over and hold that mannequin for you. Yeah, talk to the mannequin, but the evaluators, they're pretty good at keeping up. Okay, I've got a question here. What skills will we do on the actual person versus the mannequin when doing the skills test? And that's a great question. It's in my book. So if you go back to, let's see here, go back to this page 126. At the bottom of every single one of these skills pages is test-specific information. If you see mannequin there, it means it's going to be done on a mannequin for the test. If you see a live testing student there, it means it's going to be done on one of you guys for the test. So in the book, for every single skill, I actually indicate whether it's a live person or a mannequin. But if you don't have the book, that didn't answer your question, right? So for prometric testing, you are going to be using a mannequin for partial bed bath, peri-care, catheter care, dressing a resident with a weak arm, and emptying the drainage bag. 5 skills. All right. So how about their position? When I get them from the left or right side every 2 hours, check. Oh, that's sideline position. We actually went over that in class on Wednesday. Go back and watch Wednesday's replay for information on that. There's a turning clock in there that tells you where the patient should be every 2 hours. So go back and watch that lesson. All right, so here we've got step-by-step instructions on how to perform the skill. All of our supplies are at the bottom. Supplies are a big deal on this particular skill. There's a lot of supplies to learn. A lot. So let me help you make sense of this. This is a washing skill. Anytime we wash anything, anytime you wash anything, you need a basin to hold the water. You need soap. Some skills require lotion. This one does. So we're going to use some lotion. We need towels and washcloths. So I told you last week, a neat way to remember this, if we're washing a small body part like one hand or 1 foot, we need 2 washcloths. Everything else takes 4. So this is an everything else. So how many washcloths do I need? 4. This skill is going to need 2 towels. Now, the reason is because our washing rules is don't get your surface wet. Yes. In this case, our surface is the bed. So we need 1 towel to dry the patient, but we've also got to keep the sheets dry. So the second towel will go on the bed to keep the sheets dry. You could use a Chucks if you wanted to, but Chucks hold in body heat. It might make the patient sweat a little. So I use a towel. Doesn't matter what you use under the patient, just protect the bedding. But that's why we have 2 towels there. It tells us to dress the resident in a clean gown at the end. So we need a clean gown. We're going to need a privacy blanket because our patient's going to be undressed. And we're going to need some gloves to do this skill. So there's a lot of supplies here, but try to make them make sense to you. You do have to memorize them. Now, you're not graded on supplies. There's nothing that says got the right amount of supplies. You're graded on what you do with the supplies.
So if you don't get enough towels, if you only get one towel and you don't put anything on the bed and the bed gets wet, you're graded on that. You're not graded on the fact that you didn't get a towel. You're graded on the result of not getting a towel. The consequences of that. Good? Make sense? All right, so let's finish up washing rules. We're going to learn the very last principle right here now, and this is use leaves method for body openings. What is the leaves method? In order to understand that, we're going to go through all of the washing rules again. I'm going to review these with you so that this makes sense, okay? So the first thing is we don't add soap to the water in the basin. We have to keep that water clean for rinsing. We're going to use a paper towel to turn the faucet on. We're going to use warm water, not hot, not cold, and the patient's going to check it as well. We're going to change the water if it gets cold or soapy. And whatever we wash, we rinse. Whatever we rinse, we dry. And dry surfaces have to remain dry, so make sure you're using a barrier. Lotion is warmed and then wiped off. And now we want to move on to the leaves method. So understanding all of that helps with understanding this, okay? So when we're washing wet body openings, remember a wet body opening is a portal of exit and a portal of entry. You guys remember that from class 2? Portal of exit and a portal of entry, which means I can bring pathogens to my patient if I'm not careful. But I can also take pathogens from my patient. And I don't want to spread those pathogens around. So if I'm going to wash a wet body opening, I've got to use the washcloth in a way that will keep from cross-contaminating. So this is just a regular square washcloth. You guys probably have these in a linen closet at home somewhere. We usually fold them in half and then in half again, so we end up with a square. Everybody familiar with this? Mm-hmm. Well, I gotta put my mic on, I forgot.
Miss Patty, are you from Florida?
Yes. Yeah, born and bred. I was born in South Florida, but grew up in Citrus County. Okay, so these are the washcloths, just like what I have. I'm passing them out. Those of you at home, if you have washcloths available to you, go get one so you can practice along with us. And I'm going to show you how this works. Everybody get one? Okay, so we have our regular washcloth, right? It's a square. We fold it in half and in half again. So you guys should have a square that looks something like this. But instead of looking at it like a square, we're going to turn it just a quarter turn and look at it as a diamond. See how that's a diamond shape? But not just any old diamond. I want all the free corners at the top. So I don't want the folded edge at the top. I don't want, see how these are folded? I want the free edges at the top. So all of my little flappy parts are at the top. Now if I put this in my hand, here's my hand. If I put this in my hand as a diamond shape and fold this corner in between my thumb and this corner in between my ring finger and pinky, I have something that looks like this. Now, I can we want 3 edges at the top. Remember these flappy things at the top. So, just hold still for a second. Turn this just like that. So we have the flappies at the top. Okay.
So now that I have the flaps at the top, I can wipe something like a wet body opening. What's a wet body opening? These things. Eyes, nose, mouth, genitals, rectal area, wounds, rashes, sores, and incisions. So let's say I'm going to wipe the eye. I'm going to go inner to outer corner. Now I've got eye boogies on here. I don't want to put eye boogies in the other eye. So I'm going to fold that over, which traps the contamination underneath. I then wipe the other eye. Fold that over. Now I have a clean surface to work with. Wipe the rest of the face. Fold that over, giving me another clean surface to work with, and now I can wipe the nose last. I can fold that over, and that actually gives me another cleaning surface to work with if I want it. Okay? So we use this leaves method to prevent cross-contamination. Good? Anytime we're going to wash any of these, we use the leaves method with a new leaf for each stroke. Okay? If you're a mom, you will use that way more with your kids than you will in healthcare. This is an awesome thing to know because it helps prevent cross-contamination. So we wipe something, we fold that corner down, and it gives us a new cleaning surface. We wipe something else, we fold that corner down, gives us a new cleaning surface. We wipe something else, fold that corner down, gives us a new cleaning surface. We wipe something else, fold that corner down, and we can use the back side as another cleaning surface. Pretty cool, right? Yes. We call this the leaves method. So because we're going to be washing the face, we have wet body openings there. We have two eyes. That means I need a leaf for this eye, a leaf for this eye. If I'm going to wipe around the mouth, I want to use a leaf and then fold that over and then do the nose. You don't want to take boogers and put them in the mouth. Right? So remember, any body opening can let stuff out, but it can also let stuff in. Good? So here's our care plan. We're going to give the resident a partial bed bath and back rub. We're going to wash the resident's face, neck, chest, abdomen, back, one arm and hand with soap and water. It tells us to dress the resident in a hospital gown. Patient is lying on back and center of bed, can roll as directed, but is too weak to assist with bathing. So that's our care plan here. It's not a hard skill. It is a very long skill. Very long skill. But the thing that we want to remember here is that if our patient can't bathe themselves, we want to do a pretty good job for them because it does make them feel much better. Okay, imagine for a second, I'm assuming you guys bathe semi-regularly, right? Imagine for a second that you had to have emergency surgery and you're laying in bed, you can't get up, you can't get to the bathroom by yourself, you can't, hit all of your high spots, and you're laying there for 3 or 4 days. Now, you had surgery, so that's uncomfortable in itself, but how much more uncomfortable are you going to feel being aware of your own odors? We're humans. We give off odors if we don't bathe regularly. We all know this. This isn't a mystery. If you're not able to take care of that yourself, wouldn't you want somebody to help you out that's going to do a good job? That's what this skill is all about. We really want to make sure that if we're going to do this, we're doing a good job with it. If you're going to wash something, make sure you rinse that soap off. Now, I'm going to tell you in a hospital, they don't usually use this. They don't use washcloths and soap and a basin. In the hospital, we now have something called bath wipes. They're little, they look like hand wipe, things. And there's 2 different varieties. There's one with CHG and one without CHG. But the packet actually tells you what to use each wipe for. One for the face, one for the torso, one for the legs, and one for the peri area. So it kind of goes through on the package with pictures, how to use it. So in a hospital, you're going to be using the wipes because that's their policy procedure. But you still have to know how to do bathing with a basin of water because you might work in home care or you might work in assisted living where they don't have those wipes. So we're going to learn how the test wants us to do it. And this is the care plan from the test. So we're going to learn it the way the test wants us to do it. But remember that we're going to modify this based on the policy and procedure where we work and the care plan for that patient. Good. Okay. All right. We don't use soap on the face because it stings the eyes and it dries out the skin. So for the face, we're just going to use water. Just water on the face. Remember, we're going to use the leaves method. We'll wring those washcloths out thoroughly. When we move the arm to be able to wash the arm and the underarm, we lift from below at the elbow. Remember, we always support from below with a flat palm. I do armpit last just because armpit, I do armpit last. When we're done cleaning, the washcloths will go on the barrier. When we're washing the back, we're going to wash, rinse, and dry, and then give a little back rub. That back rub is going to start at the base of the back, go up in small circles to the shoulders, and come back down. We'll do that 3 times, and that's our back rub. Nothing extensive. We're going to change the gown. Watch how I change the gown, though. I do it a half at a time. So I take the gown off, keep the patient covered with a blanket, take the gown off. When I'm done cleaning, I put the new gown on and take the gown off of the old arm and just put it on my barrier. I'm done with that old gown. So remember, we're going to get that barrier first. This has a lot of supplies, guys. A lot of supplies. We're going to get water, let the patient check it. We're going to untie the gown, put a privacy blanket on, put our gloves on. First thing your gloves should touch is the patient. We're going to clean the face from clean the eye from inner to outer corner. 1 leaf per eye. Wash the rest of the face, nose last. We're going to dry by controlling that towel. Don't let that towel hit the patient. Wash, rinse, and dry the arm, torso, arm, and hand. We're going to take put the new gown on and take the old gown off, but we're not going to tie it yet because we want to scoot the patient and then roll them so they're on their side so we can wash, rinse, and dry the back. Once we're done with the back, after we've given that back rub, then we can tie the gown. It's a time-saving effort. If you don't do this, this is what happens, okay? You take the patient's gown off, you have them covered with a blanket, you wash the whole front, you turn them over, you wash the whole back, you give a back rub, turn them back onto their back, you got to put the gown on, turn them back onto their side, you got to tie the gown. Remember that whole energy conservation thing? That's a whole lot of energy for that patient. If you get the gown on before you roll them over, it conserves their energy and your time. You'll see what I mean. Everything soiled goes into dirty linen before you do your closing. Remove your gloves, perform your closing. And then these are all of the things that we've talked about in a condensed form. So these are all the checkpoints. So let's see here. Thank you, Ms. Patty. I passed the state exam, so very grateful. Good job, Yara. Good job. Does the patient matter if sensitive to warm water, like a diabetic or wound? Yeah, again, you're going to go by patient preference. That's why we ask them to check the water and we respond to it. But you're also going to go by the care plan because some of this was, diabetic or a hand with a bandage wrapped around it. That's all care plan. Remember, the care plan exists to guide you on that specific patient. So almost every question you guys have about a specific, what's the answer always going to be? The care plan. Absolutely. The care plan. I hope that helped. Let me go ahead and show you this one, and then you will have some time to practice. So remember at the very beginning of this particular lecture, we said that they were going to give us 19 minutes to do this skill. I do this entire skill from beginning to end in 12. So you've got plenty of time. Don't rush it. Hi, Miss Jones. My name is Patty. I'm your CNA today. How are you? Good. I need to do partial bed bath. Is that okay? I'm going to close your curtain. Let me wash my hands, get my supplies, and I'll be right back. For this skill, I'm going to need a barrier for the table. This will give me a clean place to put my clean supplies. For this skill, I will need 4 washcloths, 2 towels, a clean gown, and a privacy blanket. It's a washing skill, so I will also need a basin, soap, and lotion. And I'll need a set of gloves. Miss Jones, let me go get some water. I'll be right back. Miss Jones, is this water appropriate temperature? Okay. And now I'm going to spread the privacy blanket out over you. This will help keep you warm and protect your privacy while we do this skill. I'm going to spread the blanket without snapping or shaking the blanket. And I'm going to pull your sheet down to about your waist. Okay, Miss Jones, I'm going to ask you to sit forward for me in just a moment so I can untie your gown. And I'm going to spread this towel out underneath you to keep your sheets dry while we bathe you. Can I assist you to sit up, please? Thank you. I'm going to untie your gown and spread the towel out on the bed. Go ahead and lay back down, Miss Jones. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to spread the towel out underneath the arm. I'll remove the gown on the side closest to me, supporting the elbow as I lift it. And I'm going to relocate the gown to the other side of the patient. This leaves the patient uncovered underneath the privacy blanket for bathing. The blanket will keep you warm. Now I can apply my gloves. I'll take the first washcloth and wring it out. And I'm going to use 4 corners. We'll wash the face first, no soap on the face. Ms. Jones, I'm going to wash your eyes. I'll start with the closest eye to me. I'm going to wash from the inner to outer corner. Very gently. And then we'll fold this sleeve over to prevent contamination from spreading to the other eye. Ms. Jones, I'm going to wash your other eye now, inner to outer corner. We'll fold that leaf over, and then I'm going to wash the remainder of the face. Using very gentle strokes and keeping control over the washcloth. We'll fold that leaf over and use the final washcloth for the nose. And then we'll set that aside. I'm going to take the towel and pat dry all areas of her face, making sure not to use too much force. We'll set the towel aside. We're going to take the second washcloth and wring it out. And we'll apply soap to the top leaf. We do not need to use the leaves method because all of her skin from this point is intact. We're going to wash behind the ear, under the chin, across the neck, the upper torso. We're going to lift the blanket to protect privacy but keep the patient covered while we wash down to the abdomen and up the side. Now for the exam, you are going to make sure the patient remains covered until the evaluators ask you to remove the blanket. At that point, you will just continue on. I am going to repeat these actions so that you can see what I have done. I'll remove the blanket for better visualization. Behind the ears, across the chin, the neck, the upper torso, around the breasts, down the abdomen, and up the side. Then we'll clean down the front of the arm, the hand, up the back of the arm, lifting at the elbow, and the armpit last. We'll set this washcloth aside because it has soap on it. We'll take the third washcloth in the basin and wring it out. And we're going to rinse all the areas that we just washed. So behind the ear, under the chin, across the neck, the upper torso, around the breasts, the abdomen, up the side, down the front of the arm, keeping the elbow supported on the bed. We'll rinse the hand, the back of the arm, and the armpit while supporting the arm. The rinse washcloth can go back in the basin for later use. Now we're going to dry all of those areas. So we're going to pat dry or use short, soft strokes, but nothing vigorous.
Notice I'm using the back of my hand to lift it forwards. Makes it less twisty.
Go ahead and lift your arm, Miss Jones. We'll set the towel aside. Now the patient has a clean torso, so we'll place the clean gown on her. Ms. Jones, can you reach your arm through here? I'll help you put your gown on. We'll lift the arm out the elbow, supporting it as we lift.
Try to press circumference to the chest.
And we'll spread the gown out.
Had to uncover so you could see. Because I'm teaching you.
Okay, Ms. Jones, we're going to go around to the other side of the bed now, and we'll dress the other arm. Since the care plan said that we only needed to wash one arm, we do not need to cleanse this other arm. That's per the care plan, but we do need to dress it. So I'll remove the soiled gown, and we're going to place this in dirty linen. And then I'll put the new gown on. Ms. Jones, can you reach through this armhole? Thank you. And go ahead and lift. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Jones, I'm going to ask you to turn onto your left side now. This is going to allow me to wash your back and give you a brief back rub. So I'm going to ask you to scoot toward me, and we're going to roll you onto your left side. Ready? Go ahead and scoot toward me. 1, 2, 3. Now the evaluator will hold the mannequin in place while you complete your cleaning. So I'm going to take the third washcloth, wring it out, and we'll soap the top leaf. I'm going to wash the back of the neck, the shoulders, and the back down to the waist. We'll set that washcloth aside. We'll take the final washcloth and wring it out. And we're going to rinse all of those areas. The back of the neck, the shoulders, and the back down to the waist. And then finally we'll dry all of those areas. The back of the neck,
and the shoulders, the back down to the waist. Now our care plan asks us to give the patient a brief back rub. So we're going to use a little bit of lotion, making sure to warm the lotion in our hands before we give them a back rub. Ms. Jones, I'm going to give you a little back rub now. I'm going to start at the small of your back and work my way up in small circles to your shoulders. We'll do this 3 times. This is for circulation purposes. 1, 2, one more, and 3. I'm going to wipe off the excess lotion. Now I can tie the patient's gown. And remove the towel that's protecting the linens. Ms. Jones, come on back onto your back, please. And scoot to the middle of the bed. Thank you. I do not want to touch that sheet that's going to go right up next to her face with soiled gloves, but I need my soiled gloves to take care of all of my dirty linens. Ms. Jones, I'll be right back. These items are going to go into dirty linen. Now I'm going to go clean the basin. I'll empty the basin and rinse it, and then pick it up with a paper towel. I'll dry the inside with one paper towel and throw it away, and then dry the outside with a paper towel and throw that away. And I'll get one for the drawer. I'll collect the soap and the lotion, placing them in the basin, and return the basin to its drawer for storage. Paper towels can be thrown away. This barrier is going to be discarded, and now I can remove my gloves. Okay, Ms. Jones, I'm going to remove your privacy blanket now and pull your sheet back up. Are you comfortable? Good. We're going to roll the privacy blanket in a ball so that the trailing edges don't contaminate other surfaces. This will be placed in dirty linen. Okay, Ms. Jones, is there anything else I can get for you while I'm here, such as a magazine? No? Okay, here's your call light. If you should need anything at all, please let me know. I'm going to open the privacy curtain and wash my hands. After washing my hands, I'll think about the steps of my skill, make any corrections, and tell the evaluator my skill is done. Okay. So this is a great question. Are you allowed to look back at the care plan when doing the skill when taking the test? And the answer is yes. You can stop in the middle of the skill and go look at the care plan. Perfectly okay. But if you touch anything,
Wash your hands.
you gotta wash your hands
Your
again.
gloves.
Yeah. Good? Does that help? Okay.
So if you touch the piece of paper that the care plan is, then you have to go wash your hands.
Right.
Okay.
Right. If you touch anything. All right. And then Valerie says, tomorrow is my state exam. Your program has helped me a lot. Wish me luck. I'm watching from Texas. I want to know how to properly document pulse and respirations. Well, great vibes out to you, Valerie. You're going to do fantastic. We know you are. Come back and let us know how you do. So when you're documenting pulse and respirations, you're simply going to document the time that you took the reading and the amount, whatever you counted. So if your pulse was 68, you're going to write 68. Okay. All right. You're welcome, Chiefs. Yeah, the book will certainly help you. Okay. So any questions on what we've gone over so far? The homework for tonight, you've got chapter 7 in your yellow book. It's another skills chapter. So again, read the paragraphs in between and any skills that we're not covering in class, but it's a skills chapter. It's pretty easy. And then I just handed out the review sheets. Anybody who needs review sheets from previous
lessons, you can get them out of the stacker thing there by the door. And if you know you're not going to be here for a future lesson, you can grab that one as well. So those review sheets are there to help you summarize everything that we went over in that particular class. So any questions on anything that we went over today? No? Everybody good? All right. We have on Wednesday, we only have 3 skills to do. Transfer from bed to wheelchair is like ambulation. Almost everything we learned with ambulation, we're going to review again for transferring. We're going to add in a few new steps too. We're going to learn how to do peri-care. Now, everything we just did for partial bed bath, that whole leaves method, that applies to peri-care because it's a wet body opening. So we need the leaves method. And we're going to learn how to feed a resident, which doesn't follow any of our rules. So it's kind of the outlier, and we're going to discuss why. But I'm also going to talk to you about range of motion of the shoulder, which we did not get to in class 2. So we'll be going over that on Wednesday as well. You'll have about 45 minutes of practice time in class on Wednesday. You'll have about an hour of practice time in class the following Monday, a week from today. And then you'll have about 2 hours on Wednesday, graduation day. So today you have 20 minutes as we go through the program. The longer we go, the more practice time you get closer to graduation. Okay? Does anybody have any questions? Did I go too fast for anybody today? You guys all you hanging in there? Doing okay? All right. We're going to go ahead and sign off. I never broadcast student practice, so we're going to sign off of our live stream. Thank you guys all for showing up. We have quite a few on today. So thank you guys all for joining. We will see you on Wednesday. Remember, the game show is next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow. So mark your calendars, 11 a.m. For you guys in here, I also wanted to remind you that we have the CPR next Monday at 2. So if you need CPR next Monday at 2 will be your last chance to get it for $45. After that, it's $55. Okay? So until next time, guys, happy caregiving. Bye.